Facebook post say?
That bitch was dead.
Good? Great. Do you have any plans?
Hey everybody! Hello, excited Utterance here. Hello. And it is the day. It is verdict day for Nick. I wonder what the verdict will be. Shock. I wonder what it will be. Hello, Paralegal Liz. I just saw you over in Sean's chat. Yes. And what's this? Sal. Read me funny chats, please. I'll be driving in snow and can't look at the screen. When you giggle, please tell me what.
Sal, read me funny chats, please. I'll be driving in snow and can't look at the screen. When you giggle, please tell me what's so funny, mate.
Did you ejaculate?
Wow. My voice just got really deep. Sorry, guys.
Oh my God. It's so weird when you talk from down there.
That's what she said.
And that sounds dirty. Oh, God. Okay. Hey, Fed. Hello, Mads. Mads is there. Yes, Mads is there. Stray is here. Iris is here. So many people here already. You guys are great. Oh, also, I need to say hi to Rosie Posey, Nosy Rosie Posey from over on Twitter has become a member. Yes. Rosie is one of my favorite people from the Murdoch gang, not the Murdoch fan gang, because no one's a fan of Alex Murdoch. No.
I am.
Oh, except for Dali. Dali wants to date him. But no, we are the Justice Gang. The Justice Gang. Yes. And Rosie, welcome. And thank you for becoming a sticky beak. I really appreciate it. I love that you come over from Twitter and you come and watch the Murdoch stream. I love it if you would come and watch some other streams as well. Maybe you'll pop in today. And John, is that a little Peens of Our Lives symbol? How about we get everybody here?
Speaking of
Yay!
Peen.
Speaking of Peen, hello.
It's Fire D-Day.
Do you ejaculate?
Oh, stop it. Oh, stop. So I've sent out some invites today. I don't know who might pop up. Do we know where Mo is?
She had a dentist appointment and it screwed up with her leg. So
yeah,
I just want to give her some. Ooh, hola, papi.
Oh, you're Mr. Sex. And I've gotten rid of the Mr. Sex title. Yes.
I had an amazing conversation with Mo this afternoon. She's great.
She is one of the funniest women I've ever met.
If you're listening, Mo, yep, I feel you.
Mo is hilarious.
I wanted to send her an invite, but like I didn't want her to feel pressured, and
No.
Her leg is messed up.
There's a link there for her anyway. She knows there's a link there for her anyway. No, that's fine. In the future, would you consider covering Scott and Lady?
I would love to, but I'm almost positive the trial was not televised.
Okay, can we know what that is, please?
Oh, Scott Peterson, you don't know?
Oh,
there's two Scott Petersons.
Not that one. Not the Florida one. The California one.
Okay.
Not the choking on it one. Not that
It
one.
was like this massive case in 2002, I think, around there.
Yeah.
Early 2000s. This guy's pregnant wife goes missing.
Right.
He has a girlfriend. He's going out fishing in the ocean. She disappears. She's found in the ocean. But there's a lot of weird stuff that didn't really come into the first trial. He almost got a new trial. I don't know a lot about it because I was 12 at the time.
You were 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, he basically like he did it.
I don't know.
Hurried it up, like, and he tried. There's
Basically, he did it.
I don't know. There was a lot of
he's
stuff that
convicted.
Okay.
he was
I'll look
convicted.
into this, but we don't know if it was.
I
television,
don't think it
right?
was, unfortunately.
He did
Okay.
himself no favors. We'll say that because he
Okay.
looked.
We'll have a look at
He
it.
looked shady as f.
The other thing I wanted to ask everybody is who has watched the the staircase? As in, have you watched the documentary? Have you watched the Netflix drama? Is anyone into the staircase?
I have no idea what it is. No, Suitcase is Sarah Boone.
No, the staircase, right?
Okay.
If you've watched the staircase, and it was an incredible documentary, and then it was a drama. If you've watched it, the staircase is fantastic. Yeah, I got so hooked on the Netflix story. Yes, the staircase. Okay, so that was Michael Peterson. Now he was convicted of unaliving his wife by throwing her down the staircase.
Well, we don't know how she identifies.
2000. Yeah, well, it was great. Yes, it was on Netflix, and there was also the documentary that was made about him a few years earlier, and I actually followed him around their property. And I'm thinking about running his trial. Now, his trial was in early 2000s, I believe, and then he had an appeal later, and it's such an interesting story. And also there is a side story about how he was actually into men, and very much into men, in fact. Yes, and he had hidden that from his family. But
is this about David?
Like
no,
how into men?
But very much into men. So
Like,
he was secretly, he was secretly bisexual.
Wow.
And so it's quite.
What about Lindsey Graham?
Please do that trial. Yeah, I'm thinking that might be the next thing that we do at 6 p.m. at
Was
night.
it televised?
Oh yeah, there's video of everything. Yeah.
So okay.
The family, yeah. So Peterson in Redwood. Okay, you were at that trial, the Peterson one. Oh, interesting. So yeah,
Wow.
I'm thinking.
Wait, Stace, you were at the Scott Peterson trial? You watched it?
No, Peterson and Redwood.
Oh.
We're talking about the other one now.
Yeah.
There's so many Peterson. There's so many Peters.
I know. Yes, David is on Potentially Criminal right now talking about Delphi. I know. I was just over there. Yes. So yeah, I'm thinking about. I'll talk about it more. We'll get into Gypsy in a second. We'll talk about it more. I'll put something up on my community page and see if people are interested. I'll put a couple of little links to some information about the staircase, and see if people are really interested in that. Because that's what I'm thinking about doing, the staircase. So that is Michael Peterson. So Michael Peterson. And that it's an old one, but it's an interesting one because there's all this recent, really high rating Netflix drama and documentary stuff. It's really.
And it was televised?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's on Court TV. I can download all of it. But it's on Court TV. It's not on YouTube. Really easy to download. I need to go get it.
I'll talk with you behind the scenes. I can download everything from Court TV.
See, there you go.
I got a script.
He's got a script. See that I need Dali for this. But guys, it is
clip that
full on. It's full on, and you'll love it. You'll love it. It's a crazy story. Cool. All right, let's keep going. So yesterday I didn't get to this, and I want to show it, and that is this. So thank you, Half Irish, for pulling this up.
Wow.
So, oh my goodness me. People's cover story on Gypsy Rose Blanchard's prison release after murdering mum. Ready for freedom. There she is on the cover of People. Thank you, Half Irish, for this heads up. God.
I can fix
it. Yeah.
There's no amount of
You
fixing.
don't want to fix her.
Do you have a better shot at fixing Jody than fixing her?
I'd rather fix Jody. I'm just saying.
Well, there you go.
The daughter got you on the stair. Oh, so you watched the staircase, Stace? Did you? I couldn't put it
She said
down.
she was there
once
for a
I
couple
started
days
watching
of
the
it.
staircase, that was it. Yeah, okay. So her shocking journey. Yes, it was a shocking journey. God. Okay, so what's her name? It's one of the existential questions that Gypsy Rose Blanchard had more than 8 years to ponder behind bars. When it comes to her own moniker and the inspiration behind it, I was never told. God. All right, whatever. We're not going to go into this. But you know who will go into this? Who
Nick?
will go into this? No. Our guest next week, who is Fancy... Sorry, I can't remember her surname. I went blank. I do know her surname. Fancy from the Good Wives Network, who, by the way, has extensive background into this case. She's probably the person with the most background into the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. She has been following this right from the beginning. She has had contact with the family in great detail, and her perspective is that, in fact, not only is Gypsy Rose a con artist, but also her mother and the entire family are a family of con artists. This is not just about Munchausen by proxy. It's about conning in general.
Okay, can I just say it's ironic that her name then is Gypsy?
Yeah.
If she's a con artist.
Yes,
I don't know. Is that a stereotype? Is that like racist?
It might be. And she has receipts to back it up as well.
Yeah.
So we're having her on the channel next week. If you're interested in having a bit of a look into Fancy's claims, you can go over to the Good Wives Network and have a bit of a look at what she has. She's got medical records to back it up. And she has spoken with Gypsy's doctors.
Oh, wow.
Yes, she's got it all. And she's been hoping to have people listen to her for years. And she actually was one of Gypsy's advocates back when. Yes, she was. And then she found out a lot of information that turned her around. And yeah, so it's very interesting, and we're very lucky to be having Fancy coming on our channel next week.
I certainly get being on Gypsy's side at first. I mean, the story is shocking and awful what happened to her, but
yes.
Yeah. And then you find out the rest of the story, as they say.
Yes, exactly. And so now she's very much like, well, guys, wake up and have a bit of a look at the rest of the evidence that's there. Because there's so much more to the story, and she will be here to share that with us. I haven't worked out the exact day next week, but I will let you know as soon as I do. Okay, so we're very lucky to have her pop into chat and be supportive of us showing the entire trial. She said most people aren't doing that. Well, obviously, they're just like interested in the hype of Gypsy, but we're showing the entire trial, and also we're going to be going into the appellate document for Nick next week as well. All right.
Yeah, we try to cover the legal aspects of the cases on here.
Because we're very serious.
And the ejaculation part.
Well,
the ejaculation part and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, we're so like, we're very serious and
professional.
We're very professional.
We come at it from every angle.
We come at it from every angle, and we're not all just about this kind of thing. No.
And I definitely did not write a FOIA request for Mark Jensen's hard drive. I did not ask Kenosha PD to send me deep pics. I definitely did not email them a FOIA request for that.
No, nothing like that at all.
And the good news is my 20th high school anniversary is coming up in a couple years, so I can go there and be, well, what have you done with your life?
Yeah.
I wrote Kenosha PD a FOIA request for dick pics. What about you? Oh, well, I'm a doctor. Oh,
my old graphic design students will be like, so Hella, what Miss Hella, what are you doing with your graphic design life these days? Well, I'm putting cum out of
my co-host face.
My co-host face. How about you? I'm creative director of some agency somewhere. Oh, that's fantastic.
And his dress. Don't forget
his dress. Yeah. Hey, Benjamin, how's it going? Oh, you could, yes, Sal, you could say, I'm in law. Yes. All right, let's keep going with this.
I'm a YouTube streamer.
You're a YouTube streamer. Yes, indeed, I am.
Oh, can I see your channel? No.
All right, let's finish off this this man's testimony. There's not much to go. Then we'll do the closing arguments, which are short, by the way. Yeah, I think they're quite short, aren't they, Bill?
I don't know. I think they're about,
I think it's like 30 or 40 minutes. Yeah, it's like 30 or 40 minutes for both sides plus rebuttal. Like it's not that. That's
long. Not much.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty quick.
That's pretty quick, really. Yeah, they got it over with pretty quickly. And then the verdict, which we don't know what that will be.
No. I think he's going to get off.
We'll fit all this in one episode.
I hope that he gets off.
He certainly got off with Gypsy. Well, no, he didn't get off with Gypsy.
That's the problem. I hope he gets off.
I know he needs to eventually.
Do you ejaculate?
Did you rescore Dr. Frank's scoring on the IQ test?
Yes, I did.
Did you find any error?
I did. The effect of the very slow processing speed, and it gives you a better sense of what
he has a very slow processing speed, people
should be, but for that very slow processing speed.
Did you rescore Dr. Frank's scoring on the IQ test?
Yes, I did.
Did you find any error?
I did.
Just a tip.
Did you arrive at different composite scores?
No, I think.
Yes, there were multiple errors in his scoring that changed the IQ scores, the indices scores a little bit. His original, they basically changed the verbal comprehension index, raised it from a 96 to a 100, and then it changed the full scale IQ from an 82 to an 84.
It didn't change the descriptive nature of those measures, so did it?
No, 82 and 84 are both in the low average range, and 96 and 100 are both in average range, there by 100.
And what range did his perceptual reasoning index fall in?
His perceptual reasoning index was 90, and the score changes I didn't change that number. So it was still 90, which is right up there in the average range.
And when you computed his general ability index based on Dr. Frank's scoring, what did that show you?
The general ability index was a 95, right beneath 100 in the average range.
What does that mean to us?
That means if you don't consider the speed of mental processing, which is affected by motor speed, and you just think about what the person's conceptual intelligence is like, problem solving, planning, organizing, understanding the world, word definitions, things like that. If you just look at that, that score tells us what his general thinking skills are like, not including the slow motor speed. And with that general ability index of 95, it falls in the average range.
You also administered an IQ test?
Yes, I did.
The same test?
Yes, I did.
And did you obtain some different scores?
Yes, the scores I obtained were statistically significantly lower than the scores obtained by Dr. Franks.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I have to say statistically significantly different because these scores are not perfect. Right? There's error in them. All of our tests.
My cat just looked at me,
but we know what that error is, and we know how often a score. Let's say we obtained a general ability index of 95. Okay, our score is 95, but what's the true score that nobody really knows? Okay, well, it's somewhere around 95, and we can statistically identify how accurate this 95 is. Okay, so my bottom line is they fluctuate a little bit because of error. Well, I had to know whether the difference between Dr. Frank's testing and my lower scores when I tested him were just because of chance error, because the scores fluctuate a little bit. And so I ran the publisher's scoring program to identify whether those scores were just part of random variation or whether they were statistically significantly different. And they were statistically significantly different. Lower than they should have been, given Dr. Frank's testing.
So did you go back and try to determine what might account for that in the testing?
I did. I went back and looked at the items that were different between Dr. Frank's testing and my testing. I mean, the item was the same, but his answers were different. Like on some questions, he knew the right answer when Dr. Franks asked him that question, but when I asked him that very same question later, he said he didn't know the answer, and so that caused him to have a low score. And for example, one of them would have been something like, this is not an actual item, but it's something just like one of the items. what's the name of the royalty in France that lost her head in her revolution? Right? Well, that person's name might be the answer to the question. And so it was that kind of question that he knew the answer to then, but he didn't know it.
I'm going to fail
No,
this.
we-
What was the full-scale IQ you
We may have
came
a
up with?
bronchositis.
The full scale IQ that he achieved when I tested him was 77.
And where would that fall in terms of?
Yeah, 77 would fall right about here, and that would be considered borderline.
And what about the general ability index when you consider that in your test?
That was an 81. So my general ability index came out at 81, which is right in here, which is in the below average, low average, below average, not quite borderline zone. There.
Did you diagnose him with an intellectual disability?
No,
Why not?
because his scores don't support intellectual disability. Even an IQ of 77 does not support an intellectual disability. It's too high.
What other kinds of testing did you do?
I did a broad array of neuropsychological testing, where I went beyond just the IQ cluster tests. I measured a broader perspective of this attention, concentration, learning, memory, abstract reasoning, judgment, problem solving.
And so, can you tell us a little bit about what those tests tell you about his reasoning and decision-making ability?
Yes, I can, if I may refer to my notes, because I don't want to incorrectly report it.
So the defense is to make him look like an idiot, but he's not an idiot.
That testing that I gave was called the Neuropsychological Assessment Battery. Battery is a fancy word for a cluster of tests. Okay, so the NAB for ease of use. And there's different modules inside the NAB that measure different things.
Sure, use some fancy words for a
Did you
city
ask me
boy.
what the scores were or how you?
No, what I'd like you to do is tell us what those tests told you. For example, you were here when Dr. Franks told us that his diagnosis would have difficulty with any cognitive decision-making or reasoning. In order, what do those tests you gave show in that regard?
The tests I gave in that regard measure reasoning and such. Again, we can slice up reasoning in many different ways. There's attention and concentration. Well, there's an attention index. Well, first of all, the overall battery, the NAB battery, has a summary indicator that it can be used. And that summary indicator there came out at 87. So that would have fallen right about here in the low average range. And then inside the battery, there are modules, 5 of them. The attention module measures focused attention and speed of mental processing. And that index standard score was 66. Okay, way down there, that's pretty impaired, but it includes the speed of mental processing and attention. And then there's the language index, language skills, comprehensive language, expressive language, things like that. And his score was 111. Okay, that's up here. So that's clearly a strength. His verbal skills, verbal comprehension, verbal understanding, and communicating. Then on the memory index, which measures learning and memory, the ability to retain new information both visually and verbally, the overall index there was 91, which we can see would be right in here somewhere, 91. And the percentile there would have been the 27th percentile, which is an average, low average range. And then spatial index, another module, spatial reasoning, spatial processing, as opposed to language, non-verbal sort of reasoning. That came out at 87, which is in the low average range as well. And then the executive functions, the last module is called executive function, which measures verbal and non-verbal problem solving, judgments,
because
abstract reasoning, things like that. And his score was 97 with a percentile ranking of 42, which is right up here. It's in an average range.
You heard Dr. Franks refer to a couple of judgment questions that he asked the defendant. You just mentioned judgment.
You know what I'm talking about?
Battery test
No.
you gave. Is there a section on that?
No.
There is actually, inside the executive module, there's a subtest called judgment. And it is a verbal reasoning, problem solving type of subtest.
How do you do in that
How did we
subtest?
get Pam? Someone tell me. I've got no idea.
It
I
scored
don't
that
remember
real
how we
quick.
got there, but
His
I remember
judgment
the
score
question.
Pause.
Came out
Was
at the
it?
97.
Yeah.
Someone explain the
because
Pam reference.
She supposedly removed her or had her saliva glands removed, so she couldn't make saliva,
Yes.
Right.
but she was giving hers. So we were talking about how to lubricate.
Blowies.
Yeah. And then we talk. Well, it's your mouth. It's something you eat. So you need Pam.
You need lubrication.
Yeah.
So
and
Pam
it's cooking.
It's edible. And it's slickery.
Yeah.
So, it makes things go smooth.
Someone decided that it would be
friction.
Pam would be the best thing for the friction.
Yeah.
I think it was you, Veal, wasn't it?
It was.
I'm pretty sure it was me.
I'm pretty sure it was Veal. Fairly sure.
I'm pretty sure it was me.
Blue. Yeah. Hey, Bobby, Pam. And I don't even know what Pam is. We don't have Pam here. So apparently Pam's a thing.
It's just, you might as well just use butter. It's just an Americanized, stupid version of putting butter in a spray can.
It's spraying butter, right?
It's
okay, because we spray oil on some things in air fryers.
Yeah, like you can get like coconut oil and like aerosols and stuff. Like you can do all that kind of stuff. It's just the same thing. It's just some stupid American version of it.
You fucking love Pam, Bobby. Okay, right. Do you have no saliva glands?
I loved it when they used it last night. Bobby.
Oh, right. Okay, so if you look carefully, that is supposed to be Pam coming out of Dali's mouth. Because I'm pretty sure Excoma paid for both the Pam bottle and, Excoma definitely paid for the Pam to be coming out of Dali's mouth.
Yes.
Thanks for that, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, Excoma paid for a fair bit of this to happen.
Yes.
Excoma is the sponsor of a lot of these things. In fact, if Excoma is here or anybody else, if someone would like to sponsor a hat for Dali, we were just talking about a vagina hat. Is there a vagina hat that
I just DM'd or private chatted it too?
Oh, you just Dali, you can't be upset about it because you just DM'd me about it, so it's got to be something.
I mean, it was your suggestion, Dali.
It was
shut up.
Yeah, it was your suggestion. Hey, bye, Franz. How's it going, man?
And my monitor's frozen right now, so just
Surely they have butter flavor. Yeah, apparently they do have butter flavor.
They have multiple flavors. You can get butter. You can get extra virgin olive oil flavor. It comes in all kinds of flavors. So whatever Gypsy prefers. And if she likes a variety, they have it in multiple flavors.
Oh yeah, I think I was talking about how you can get strawberry lube, and then you just went into being degenerate.
I did.
Oh, it was Veal's fault, right?
Yeah, I mean, just because I've used that line once with a girl and tried to repeat it as a joke, you guys just had to be all perverted.
Okay, right. It was
definitely was
no,
the one
it
who
was
did
no
it.
one's fault, but okay.
It was me.
Yep, sure. Put it on everybody else, Dali.
We didn't even give it the edible panty thing. So
yeah.
Oh, I have a story about that. I'm kidding.
All right. If anyone wants to, it's $10 a go, right? So if it's just a hat or something like that, that's $10. So let me just have a look at this thing that Dali has sent, and let me see whether or not I agree that it would look good on Dali. Let me see.
Percentile. And actually, the way these subtests are classified is a little different. I need to explain that. Okay. Sure. We talked about IQ scores with a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 15. Well, sorry, but the NAB battery.
You can be seated. I'm sorry. Not true.
The NAB battery doesn't classify the scores based on this IQ metric. It uses a different scale called T-scores. And with a T-score, the average is 50. Okay. And the standard deviation is 10. Okay, so now, so the mean for a T-score would be right here, but instead of calling it 100, it would call it 50. And this would be 60, 70, and 80, and then this would be 40, 30. So, but it's the same curve, it just has a different scale on it. And so his result on the judgment subtest was a T-score of 69, which is almost 2 standard deviations above the mean. It would be 1, 2 right here. It was better than his ranking was 97. Better than the judgment of 97% of the average.
Hey, Junior, he said 69.
But when Marcus takes it to 186, you recognize that?
Yes.
What is it?
Oh my.
This is the actual testing protocol for the judgment subtest.
And so does it contain questions and the answers he gave on that?
Yes, it's got the questions and my writing of his answers.
Such an
Who
adult.
does it takes you to 186?
I am. Oh.
You really are.
I just briefly saw it, Judge. I don't know if I need to read it.
What do you
It
think?
really was.
Take your time.
This is the only man in the world who can make a penis diagram boring.
I know that you're Stephen. Could you please read your questions and the answers that Lieutenant gave?
Okay.
I can't even see the screen right now, guys.
All of
What's wrong with
You're literally not missing
the
anything.
first one is, why should you blow out candles before going to bed?
Why should you blow?
His answer was, because you don't want to start a fire.
You don't put your candle on a pile
Each
of
of these-
papers.
Questions is scored based upon a 0, 1, or 2. Except for the first one, which is just a 1 point. So
Hey,
that's
Andrew.
less. The next one, why should you not leave a young
I think
child
that means
alone
he's
at home?
backstage.
Oh,
His answer, because they might get into some things that are hazardous to their health. And at that point, since
I
it's a
can't
big
see, but I'm
response,
just
I'm
mentioning.
just supposed to question it. And so I have a question here saying, what do you mean by that? Tell me more about it. And then he said, they can't have
oh God, what a dork I am. How are you?
Great. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now we can.
All right.
All right, let me fix up this layout.
Yeah, stick me down there in the motorboat position.
Yeah, I'll stick you down there in the motorboat position. There you go.
Are you able to make all those little size adjustments in StreamYard? Is that what you use for this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to learn how to do that.
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll show you. I do lessons.
All right, I'll take you up on that.
Nice to see you. How's your day been?
It's been long, a long day. I may fall asleep on mic, so we'll see.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. We'll find that funny. We'll just giggle at you if you do that. We'll be like, hey, Bronco's asleep. Nice.
So what are they doing here? IQ tests or something? What is all this?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the last
We're back.
last witness, and yeah, they're basically talking about what little IQ this fella has. And yeah, the whole point is basically to show that he didn't have the mental capacity to make many decisions for himself. And therefore you guys should all feel kind of sorry for him and not not to give him the first degree, and maybe potentially look at him as a second degree candidate for unaliving.
So there's a few issues with this, Andrew. So the first guy they brought up, because this is the defense second psychologist. So this guy, though, he came up and he said that his perception, so 100 being the median, right, on the scale, so that Nick's perception is a 95. So he's average, like completely average. So his perception of what he was doing was normal, but they're trying to play him off like he's supposed to be an idiot. It's like his
and this
IQ.
is the defense witness?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yes. It's not great. It's not a good look. Because it seems like their defense is that he's an idiot and you're supposed to feel mad for him. But this guy is saying that, like, in some of the things, like other than just basic intelligence and knowledge, like he's average in most aspects, other than just being intellectually stunted. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awkward.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So, welcome. It's lovely to have another Branca sighting on stream for, I think, the third time this week. Awesome. We love having you
This is
here.
who the defense chose as their last witness?
Yes.
Were any of the other witnesses any better for the defense?
No.
No.
Because we had Gypsy was the first one, and then the second psychologist, or the first psychologist, and this is the second psychologist. And the first
So just three witnesses.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
much so.
Yeah. Pretty cut and dry.
Pretty much it. And this is so we're nearly done, and then we'll have the closing statements, closing arguments, and then the verdict, which we don't know what that's going to be. We're all going to be in shock.
I don't know what it is.
No, we don't. But no, we don't. We're going to pretend we don't.
Yes.
It will be shock. Today it's verdict watch for like 3 seconds, and then we're going to be we're going to put a verdict watch banner up, and then we're just going to be like, oh, yeah. Cool. All right, let's keep going. Hang on, where do I think go? Oh, there it is.
have, or they can't fend for themselves, so they may starve.
Yes, actually, Bifront,
That's
we
the
did
2-point
work out where we've
response.
seen this guy before.
Again. Number 3, why should you replace the batteries in a smoke detector regularly? His response, so you can rely on the smoke detector when there is a fire.
Murdoch?
So you don't have to worry about the detector being
Oh,
dead.
hang on. No, I don't think it was Murdoch.
The correct answer to that fire alarm question is so you know you're not a woman.
Dead because it could also be you that is dead because of it. Awkward, but it's got the content. That is a 2-point response. Next question, what should you do if you take too much of a prescription medication? His answer, call Poison Control Center and let them know your situation. It's an immediate response, and a 2-point response is the appropriate thing to do. Number 5, why should you not unplug electrical appliances while your hands are wet? His response, because you can get zapped, because water is a conductor of electricity, and it increases the chance of you getting zapped. 2-point response.
Next
Number
question.
6,
What is the
why
theory
are
of
certain
relativity?
foods marked with an expiration date? His response.
Adjusting court
So the
volume down
customer
a little bit
knows
so we can
when
all
to
be heard
leave
a little bit better.
the product
That's
with, sorry, my writing's not good. Leave the product with an old expiration to get a product with a newer expiration date so you don't get sick. The concept there is that the expiration date helps inform us as to whether the food might be good or whether we become ill, which is a 2-point response. Next one, 7. Why is it important for people to brush their teeth? His response, to keep your teeth as clean as possible and to keep your gums as healthy as possible. That answer addressed 2 issues, hygiene and keeping away disease and freshness of breath type issues. So it's a 2-point response. Number 8, why is it important to tell your doctor all the medications that you are taking? His response, you should tell your doctor because there could be serious side effects that would cause serious life changes, and he could give you an alternative route or medication that could improve your condition. Again, 2-point response. Number 9, why should you wash your hands before eating? This response, because it is good hygiene and it keeps you from spreading any diseases onto the food. It addresses not only the hygiene issue, but also the transfer of germs. 2-point response. Number 10, the last one. What does it mean when your doctor says that there is a 25% chance of having serious side effects from a treatment? His response.
But what if she offers you sparkly vajayjay, David? Does that change it?
Sparkly vajayjay
I'm sorry, I can't read the first word that I wrote.
Vampire vajayjay?
You should put that 25% chance into perspective of whether or not that medication is good for you over another medication.
But the defense should argue that a smart defendant would know he should have lied on these answers. So this guy was too stupid to lie.
Answer. It's a 1-point.
Yeah, he is.
Splitting the difference answer. 1 point rather than 2 words.
Did you find the defendant to be intellectually impaired?
I did not.
Why not?
All of his scores, even his historical IQ scores, some of them are low, yes. But even going back to his childhood scores in the record, none of them fell in the range of intellectual disability. The fact is, the objective data does not support intellectual impairment. Mr. Godejohn does not have intellectual disability.
We've spoken briefly about how it's common for individuals who are on the autism spectrum to have those higher scores in the reasoning part of the IQ test, but the lower scores in the processing of speed. Are you familiar with any studies that have looked at the autism population with regard to their intuitive versus methodical decision making?
Yes, actually, there is research. You combine speed and mental processing in with methodical, which goes together because when somebody's methodical about their decision making, the speed and mental
No,
processing
there is
slows.
a clicking.
And there's 2 papers that come to mind, both of them published in the Journal of Autism and
Would have been
Neurodevelopmental
worse if it went for
Disabilities.
Bielhammer.
One showing that on IQ tests, the speed of mental processing is very low. And so it's telling you, do not use the regular IQ score because because it gives you wrong results because of that. The other paper, I think it was 2016, would actually measure autism spectrum, the construct, using the same instrument actually that I used and that Dr. Franks used, the adult autism scale, the autism quotient is a subscale in that. And they gave it to lots of different people and then measured their level of autistic thinking using that scale, and also their ability to reason and the way they reason with another scale. Now, this scale measures methodical, deliberate, step-by-step type of reasoning, but it also measures intuitive, snap judgment kind of reasoning. They're different. And they found in this research that as the level of autistic thinking in the person increases, the more they have methodical, step-by-step thinking, and the less they have intuitive, snap judgment. It was fascinating research.
Does that deal with that awkwardness in social settings where if I have autism, I know how to react to things that present themselves right to me, as opposed to if I have more time to think about it, I can make a better decision?
Yes. Yeah, and when there's no time limits, for example, where I'm asking you these questions, there was no particular time limit. It wasn't under the gun time-wise. He could think through and give you an answer. That's deliberate, methodical type of reasoning, which is very different than an impulsive, intuitive, I got to have an answer right now. People with autism spectrum traits are not very good at the spontaneous, quick change type decision making, but they're actually reasonably good with methodical step-by-step thinking.
Did you reach a diagnosis with regard to the defendant?
Yes, I did.
What was it?
Autism spectrum disorder, mild or level 1, I should say. And also, because his reading level is not up to what I think it probably should be, and his math skills aren't quite what they ought to be, I diagnosed specific learning disability for reading and specific learning disability for math.
And does the DSM give us a specific example of what a level 1, 2, and 3 would look like?
Yes.
You were using that assist you in explaining your diagnosis to the jury?
Yes, it would. Certainly the level part of it.
You recognize basically 185?
Yes, it,
Is that chart from the DSM that explains the levels?
yes, this is a copy right out of the diagnostic manual that talks about how to rate the severity of autism spectrum disorder.
Who did admit safe to do it 185 over the motion to exhibit?
Objection.
So that's what the chart looks like there, correct? You say objection?
I said no objection.
I'm sorry, I think you said objection. I was waiting. Sorry, you didn't without objection. So that's the chart in its entirety, and it's kind of small. And so at the bottom is level 1, correct?
Yes.
And as I look at that, the 3 levels, all 3 levels require some support, correct?
Yes, because that's the nature of the diagnosis, right? If the person didn't require some level of support, they wouldn't have a diagnosis. They would just be poorly. Okay, that's this group out here that doesn't have impairment at some level and needs some support. That would meet the diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder.
And the defendant's definitely not level 3, correct?
Correct, that's the most severe.
So if we look at levels 1 and 2, in addition to talking about what the deficits are, it gives us an example, correct?
Yes, the severity levels on the left, and then the social communication examples are in the middle, and then the restrictive repetitive behavior kind of examples are on the right.
So level 2 is described, for example, as a person who speaks in simple sentences, but whose interaction is limited to narrow special interests. What does that mean to you, narrow special interests?
Well, that's when they do speak in simple sentences, it's almost always on their area of interest. Let's say somebody was really focused on collecting baseball cards. That's their big interest, right? They can talk to you in simple sentences, but it's always going to come back to their baseball cards because that's what they're really, really interested in. So these simple sentences that always slide back into their narrow area of special interest.
And what about who has markedly odd nonverbal communication? What does that mean to you?
Okay, that's the other aspect of their communication. The nonverbal is odd, but it's not just odd, it's markedly odd. Okay, that's the term there. So it's more than just odd, it's got to be a lot odd, okay, in their nonverbal interaction.
Does that describe the defendant?
Does this appear?
Yeah, that example for number 2, level 2?
I don't think so, because the person speaks in simple sentences and always goes back to their narrow focus of interest, which is not my perspective, Mr. Godejohn.
With regard to level 1, it describes a person who's able to speak in full sentences, engage in communication, but whose to and fro conversation with others fails. What does that part mean, that to or fro conversation with others fails?
It's the dynamic of conversation, which we all know is a give and take. person speaks a little bit and then they rest, and the next person speaks a little bit and rests, and it's a dynamic process, and we can feel it when it's going right. And we're talking to somebody, and if somebody doesn't work with you there and it becomes disjointed and awkward, it's difficult to communicate with something like that. And this, as it was talking about, engaging in communication, there's to and fro conversation fails, it disrupts.
And whose attempts to make friends or odd are typically unsuccessful.
Yes.
So which of those two more accurately describes the defendant in your opinion?
In my professional opinion, the box here example for level 1 is more accurate reflection of Mr. Godejohn, based upon the available information I reviewed.
Why can't we be friends?
You
This
talk
is
about
really
the history part of the
a state
model.
witness.
You talk about the present part of the model, looking at the
This is
testing and diagnosis and interaction with the defendant by you.
By model,
it's got to be
I'm sorry, if I may
rebuttal.
ask.
He's trying to
you
say
mean the model of how to determine a mental state in the past?
Yeah.
impaired.
Yes, thank you.
So we talked about history with regard to that.
We
Yes.
must have
And we
missed.
talked about the present, which is your evaluation of the defendant, meeting with him, talking to him, testing him,
That's correct.
and your diagnosis, correct?
Yes.
Which leads to the time of offense part. So in your training and experience, if you're looking at that time before and at the time of the offense,
Imagine.
what would be important to look at
Yeah, he's rebuttal,
to
Matt.
determine what a person was thinking at that retrospective time?
Thank you, Matt.
Well, the model has two
Pretty clear
columns
from
there.
the
One
way
is
it's
self-report. And so
It's
it's
trying to
important
play
for me
down.
to talk to the person about their
Yeah.
perceptions of what happened and what they were thinking at the time. Granted, that self-report, it may be accurate or it may not be accurate. Because I also have to look at this column, which is the other collateral sources of information that relate to that specific period of time. And it may be
Whole life.
interviews with people that were there. It may be investigative materials. It may be the defendant's own writings at the time, maybe a journal or
Well, it
letters,
is a much
or
more common
electronic letters,
diagnosis.
text messages, things like that. So that's at the moment in time, and it's objective about your thinking at that time. So I take what the person tells me, I take this other objective information, and I look at that, and how well does it fit?
Do you know-
If it fits in the
It's
bigger
very
picture,
Midwestern.
and it all makes sense, and then I can come to a conclusion about his mental state at the time, whether there's indication of psychosis or delusions or brain injury kind of problems or cognitive problems, what have you. And then once I have these conclusions from past, present, and a specific period of time, say at the time of the offense, once I know all of that, then I can answer the question that the court has asked me to answer.
And so would that include looking at things like perhaps a person told a psychologist who asked them what they were thinking at the time?
Yes, if it was relatively close to that period of time, yes.
Facebook messages a person may have sent leading up to or at the time of the event?
Exactly, I would look at that.
Web searches someone may have made leading up to or around the time of the event?
Yes, that can be informed.
Oh, has he got web searches?
At least
Would
his
it be
tie is
important
straight.
to look at the kinds of things the person was doing
Tie is straight.
and saying
I'm not
at or
the
near
first
the time of the
psychologist.
event and
You
coming up with
read
that
about straight
retrospective
ties, don't you?
look.
It's not only important, it's absolutely critical. If you don't do that, you won't get a
He's
good
talking to the
understanding.
jury. I love
of
doing
what
this.
the thinking was
And
at
this is
the
my
time.
favorite part of being an
You'll get
expert
maybe what
witness.
they told you. And you can, as a psychologist, spin a lot of psychological theory about trying to explain that. But if you don't look at this stuff, you're not going to understand what was really going on at the time. Yes, it's vitally important.
No further questions?
I love his Flo B haircut.
He's nice. He's nicely groomed. He's a good-looking expert witness. He's much better looking than the last expert witness.
I'm trying to.
The last guy
You were
was
here for that one, weren't you? Franca?
I don't know. I
I'm not
don't remember.
Yeah, you were here, and he wasn't well groomed at all. His tie was like.
Then you don't think you can.
No, I'm thinking of his face.
Oh. Sorry. Now would be the time to tell me, does anyone need a break for 5 minutes just to stretch or why don't we, okay, let's take a break for a couple minutes. There's something else.
Are they going to leave? Oh, well, she's not there. The last time they took a break.
The court again reminds
There
you
was
what
a big
you told at the first recess of the court. Until you retire to consider your verdict, you must not discuss this case in yourself to the third or permit anyone to discuss it with you. You should not perform or express any opinion about the case until it is finally given to you to decide.
You're not doing the research or investigation on your own about
How do you
any matter
think that
regarding
went?
this case
Yeah,
or
not
anyone
great.
involved in the trial.
Yeah,
Do not communicate with others about the case by any means. Do not read, view, or listen to any newspaper, radio, electronic communication from the internet.
I mean, he seemed much more like comfortable being there than the other guy did, which made him appear like he knew what he was talking about.
Right. So if I go forward, will I have access to the next one reel?
Yes, the only thing you're
Alright.
not going to have because of the restriction is the verdict.
Right. So just so you know, I don't have access to the verdict because Australia is restricting me to a couple of the videos.
Yeah.
Weird. Oh, poor Nick.
They dressed him like it's 1983.
It's Missouri.
Oh, it was 2015 or 2016. It is Missouri.
I think this is jury.
Everyone training. We were about to do the cross-examination about the event. Is that correct?
Yeah, we might never know.
Just very inside.
This is the cross of the dude who was just on the stand.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the next one is jury instructions, which is 20 minutes. We can skip that.
Do we need the jury instructions, do you think?
Have a seat.
It's basically
remind you that you're still on
first degree murder, I think, or nothing.
Thanks, Derek. Dr. Denny, how many people with autism spectrum disorder have you evaluated?
Oh, a handful, maybe 3, 4,
You
5.
like the jury instructions,
Not very
please?
many.
Sweet.
Does the 3 to 5 include Mr. Godejohn?
Yes, it does.
How much were you paid for your evaluation?
No,
that
they're
you
important.
conducted for the sake?
I was contracted to up to $6,000 for the.
Oh, when they start talking about
evaluation. That's
money.
not including my time thus far.
Last time I was an expert witness, it really flung me because I did a pro bono, so I got to say nothing.
Nothing. That's always a great answer, isn't it?
How much were you paid for today's testimony?
They were somewhat flummoxed.
I haven't totaled it up, but it's $150 an hour.
See, okay, this really bugs me. And Andrew, I'm sure every time you're an expert witness, they ask you this. And yeah, it'd be lovely to say no, that you didn't charge anything. But I can't stand it when the attorneys ask about how much were you paid to be.
It just goes to potential bias. You know, obviously your testimony is being bought. And, you know, I can't say that no witness has ever colored their expert witness testimony because they were getting paid by one side. I mean, I can tell you I've never done that, but it's normal for people to favor those who are paying them, right?
Yes. But then again, it's like, well, what do you expect? Of course, someone's going to be paid for their time. And people, I see, if you're going to have a look in the law and crime chats, which are horrible, but the law and crime chats really they're a really good reflection of what people are thinking out there in the populace. And the people out there in the populace are like the people in the jury. When you think about it, they're the populace. And it's scary, but it's true. Like, if you have a look at what those people are saying, they're like, oh my God, that person got paid $20,000. Okay, well, think about how much of their professional time was put into coming up with that analysis of that person. This person is a psychologist. This person is a psychiatrist. Their time is worth $200 an hour. They spent however many sessions with this person, the defendant, for example, analyzing them. What do you expect? That they're going to do that for free? So it's not that they're necessarily biased. That's just their professional time. And for the population or the jury to be so upset about that amount of money being spent, to me, is just preposterous. But the fact that people are, that the lawyers question this and that gets put in front of the jury, I don't know why that kind of questioning is allowed.
I mean, the whole system is set up kind of presuming that the expert's lying, right? That's why we have cross-examination. That's why he has to share his expert opinion with opposing counsel before he ever shows up in court, so they can look at it and they can get their own expert, right, to counter argue against him. So it's an adversarial process, and that applies to the expert witnesses too. Of course, they get paid. Everyone presumes everyone's lying, and that's what I love about U.S. courtrooms. That's because everyone generally is lying. And we have the privilege of cross-examination, call our own witnesses, call our own experts to arrive at the truth, something approximating the truth.
Yeah. How do travel expenses work? Half Irish has a question for you. So
how do they work for me? Or you mean for experts?
Generally, but also for you. I mean, if you're pro bono, like they'll be paying for your.
Oh, I only did pro bono because it was only 30 minutes from my house, so I could drive there. Now, if it was going to be inconvenient, I wouldn't have done it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
But no, when I do this kind of work, normally if I have to fly, it's business class. If I'm staying in a hotel, it's a nice hotel. I'm not staying in a Hampton Inn. I'm very expensive as it is, just my base rate. So that just kind of comes with the package.
Fair enough. No, yeah, she said you generally. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, but every expert has their own. There's no master guidelines that expert witnesses follow. They each make up whatever they're comfortable with.
Yeah, and it really bugs me when these questions come up in trials, because it's just it starts to really color the testimony, and it's about money. Then it's not about whether or not the expert is credible for their actual testimony. That's all. Anyway, we'll keep
going. How much were you paid to prepare for today's testimony?
Oh, it's the same hourly rate. And I think I had maybe 3 hours of record review.
Do you know altogether how much you've been paid?
I have to be honest, I'm always surprised at how little these guys are paid.
That too.
Well, I've been paid $6,000.
And people are always like, "Oh man, that's so much," but it seems to me to be quite little.
Now, you indicated that you.
I mean, if you genuinely have a high level of expertise.
Several tests with Mr. Godejohn. Is that true?
Yes.
And if I counted right, I counted 16 tests in what you call structured interviews. Is that about right?
Oops. Sorry. Fix it.
Well, I would have to look. I had it listed in my report.
I found it on the second page of your report.
Yes, that is correct.
And do all of these tests, in your mind, help you determine your diagnosis?
Well, they assist. They certainly inform the diagnosis.
You also indicated that you read a lot of police reports.
Yes, I did.
In your preparation for this evaluation, is that correct?
Yes.
And among the things you reviewed, among other things, you reviewed a case summary?
Yes.
Do you remember what that was?
The Greene County case summary?
Yeah.
Yes, it's an overview of the facts of the case.
You reviewed a case timeline?
Yes.
You reviewed, among other things, an interview of Gypsy Blanchard?
Yes.
You reviewed some reports of 2 cab drivers?
Yes, that's true.
You reviewed some reports of some Gypsy Blanchard posts that you made on ChristianDatingForFree.com?
Yes, that is true.
You reviewed the felony information in this case?
Yes.
And you reviewed a proposed instruction with the minimum elements of the murder charge. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And then a lot of other stuff. A lot of other interviews of family members and friends and stuff. People that knew Mr. Godejohn.
Yes.
Oh, I'm not having a go, Liz.
And
Fair
some
enough.
Facebook messages.
Yes, many Facebook messages.
Now, you also indicated that you had been a staff psychologist for the FedMed for 8 years.
Well, actually, I was working in the forensic evaluation unit for 8 years. I was actually at the U.S. Medical Center for 21 years.
But 8 of those years was in doing evaluations.
Well, no, all the time I was doing evaluations. When in 2000, after 8 years, I moved off of the forensic evaluation unit and then started working in the medical and surgical units. However, I was the only neuropsychologist in the institution.
This is the stuff
So
that
when
jurors find
forensic
so boring.
cases
They don't
came
actually
into the
care
forensic
about his
unit
work
that had
history.
neurologic
No.
issues.
The courts made him an
or
expert,
memory
qualified him as
complaints
an
or
expert.
cognitive
and totally
impairments.
It's
Then
done.
I was a consultant to that, so then I would evaluate the pretrial defendants as well. So I continued evaluating pretrial defendants.
The only
just
time
not
this is interesting is when the
same
court
rate as I
qualifies
did
them as an
when I was
expert,
on
and then
the
it turns out they don't have any
forensic unit.
qualifications.
And while there, you performed pretrial
That happens.
criminal
Like,
forensic
well,
exams.
why?
with your
Why are you bringing this
court
up? You're going to try
Yes, sir.
and
order, and that
disqualify
was
him?
by the U.S. judge.
Yes, the U.S. District Court.
It's too late now.
And in the last, I guess, 8 years or so, since you've been in private practice, how many evaluations have you conducted?
Hundreds and hundreds of evaluations, but not, unless you're asking specific forensic evaluations.
Forensic evaluations, but I'm
That's good.
specific, I apologize.
I have done not a lot because my clinical practice is my primary activity now, but my forensic work, maybe 15 cases.
And are those mostly competency to stand trial evaluations?
I would not say mostly. Most of the cases I get involved in are actually capital murder cases. I get pulled in to evaluate the defendant at various different times in the process, mostly to identify whether they had intellectual disability or any other significant cognitive problems. But there have been 3 or 4 that were competency related, I believe.
Now, you indicated that you evaluated Mr. Godejohn, correct?
Yes,
And you interviewed him for 135 minutes on January 25th, 2017? Would that be right? Page 14 of your report, I think,
that sounds about right. Oh, yes, yes,
and you interviewed him then on the next day, the 26th of January, for 18 minutes?
yes,
And then on the 2nd of February, I'm guessing about a week later, you interviewed him for another 115 minutes.
that was the very next Monday. And yes, 115 minutes.
So that's the amount of time you spent just interviewing him.
Yes, I believe that's about 4 hours.
And then you tested him with these tests that you talked about?
Yes, sir.
And that was on all 3 days. You did some testing on all 3 days, correct?
Yes, sir.
And of the 17 hours that you spent with him, or about 17 hours you spent with him, 12 of them were testing, correct?
The 11 or 12.
And then you then prepared the report, which is dated March 25th, 2017. Am I correct about that?
Yes, sir.
Now, I want to talk to you about this, we call it the Wechsler test. Is that how you say that?
Yes, sir. The Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale, WACE for short.
Okay, and it has a nickname?
Wechsler
WACE.
test.
Yes.
WACE, okay. And is that now like a fourth edition?
It is the WACE 4.
Is this kind of just a basic IQ test? A common IQ test?
What a Weasley looking man.
Basic could be defined better, but it is the most commonly used IQ test.
He is an attorney. Sorry, Bronco.
And in this particular test, you are looking at a number of things. Verbal comprehension, correct?
Yes,
Perceptual reasoning,
yes,
working memory,
yes.
processing score.
Processing speed, yes.
Processing speed, and then full scale.
Yes, there's actually about 10 different tests in this large group of tests, and they cluster together into those different categories.
And with regard to verbal comprehension, you gave him an 87. By him, I mean Mr. Godejohn.
Well, I didn't give him an 87.
She earned it the old-fashioned way.
You're scoring him up with 87.
Excuse me, please don't same time.
You're scoring him up with 87, is that correct?
For the verbal comprehension index, yes.
And that would be the 19th percentile?
Yes, that sounds all right. Low average range.
Low average. And that was a lower score than even Dr. Franks gave him for that. Is that correct?
Yes, he achieved
Even
a
lower.
verbal comprehension index of 100 with Dr. Franks, right on the center of the average range.
Then on perceptual reasoning, you gave him an 81, or you scored him an 81?
Yes, he achieved an 81.
Again, that's the 10th percentile.
Yes, just a little bit lower than the first standard deviation below them.
Again, that's a low
Lower than
average
that.
classification.
Yes.
And that also is a lower score than Dr. Franks.
No, he's
Is that
right
correct?
Yes,
there,
Dr.
right?
Franks achieved a 90 on that index.
And working memory, you gave him an 83, or you scored him an 83.
Yes,
That's the 13th percentile.
correct.
That also is low average.
Yes, low average to below average slightly, yes.
And again, lower than Dr. Franks gave you, correct?
Working memory,
Yes.
I believe Dr. Franks achieved a working memory index of 77.
Okay, maybe I wrote that down wrong. Okay.
And I achieved he achieved an 83 with me, so I think that's a little higher.
All right, I apologize if I had that written down wrong. On processing score, Steve, you scored a 74, correct?
Yes,
And that's the 4th percentile?
Did you say 40th or 4th? Sorry, 4th?
4th percentile. Is that the 4th
I
percentile?
believe that's about it. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think that's about right.
And you described that as borderline.
Yes.
What do you mean by borderline?
Well, as I
It's on the
tried to
line of the
explain
border.
with the graph earlier, there's this range that is below the average range. You get down to low average, right? And low average / below average kind of range. And then there is this zone in between that and what would classically be considered extremely low or consistent with what we would think of as intellectual disability typically. And that range is classified as the borderline range. That's the name for it.
Borderline stupid, and then there's just stupid.
Not intellectual disability, but close to it.
Yeah, not intellectual disability, but not low average. In between.
So it's even below low average.
Yes, sir.
And your
Yes, very
so you
short
got-
closing.
I believe you obtained the same score as Dr. Franks on that. Is that correct?
On the processing speed index?
Yes.
Yes.
And then your full scale IQ, you scored a 77 for Mr. Godejohn, correct?
Yes, he obtained a 77 on the full scale IQ.
And that's the 6th percentile.
Yes.
And that's also borderline.
Yes, sir.
And once again, that's a lower score than Dr. Franks.
Yes, surprisingly lower and statistically significantly lower, as I mentioned.
And yesterday you told us, you said the data is what the data is.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that there's some flexibility around these numbers.
There's some error around them, yes.
And there's some flexibility around these categories as well, correct?
Well, to the extent that they're labeled in certain ranges, they're generally not, with the one exception of low average to below average. Depends on who you ask what that's called. So it's very confusing, I'm sorry, because there's different classification schemes in the field right now, and we're actually trying to cohese that into one uniform standard across the board, but it's not there yet.
And yesterday with State's Exhibit 184, which was the bell curve graph, you indicated that 68% of the population has an IQ between 85 and 115. Is that correct?
68% of the general population, yes.
And the mean or the middle would be 100.
Correct.
Half the population, in theory, would have a lower IQ than 100, and half would have a higher IQ than 100.
That is true to do.
And among those 68% of the population, they would not all be clustered closer to 85 or closer to 115. They would be spread out along that entire range. Am I correct?
Well, they are spread out, but remember the curve is like this. So they're spread out from 85 to 115, but they cluster towards the center. So most fall in the center area, but it gradually, the numbers get less and less and less as it moves out. That's the nature of the curve.
So most fall closer to 100 than 85, correct? Is that what you're telling us?
Well, yeah, it's the percentile ranking. For example, 100, the percentile ranking is 50. Okay, 50%, whereas less people fall at 16th percentile, only 16%. That's the bottom of that average.
So if 100 is average, and you gave Mr. Godejohn a 77, that would be, if my math is right, 23% lower than the average.
Well, it's not 23% lower. I'm sorry, that's a mischaracterization. It's the percentile-wise, there would be a 23% change in the percentile, but it's not like percentages 5%, 10%, 15%, 100%. But a 77, if it's a valid IQ score, falls in the borderline range.
And that's a significant deviation from 100.
Yes, sir.
Now, you administered an adult Asperger's assessment,
Yes.
and that is, I guess, to determine the level of autism, or if there is autism present.
Yes, it helps inform us into the amount of autistic traits that are present in a person that's taking the examination. It includes not only questionnaires for the person himself, but also an assessment, a rating by someone who knows the person well, like a family member.
Now, tell us what an autism spectrum quotient is.
Well, that's one part of the adult autism assessment. That's the autism quotient, and it's the questionnaire that the subject takes himself, and it identifies the amount of autistic-like thinking that the person has. It's commonly used in research as well as clinical practice.
What would be an average score on that, do you think, for all people who take that test with autism?
With autism, an average score with autism. Usually, individuals classified with autism. Now, with Asperger's included as part of autism.
Yes.
Because usually it's designed for Asperger's, which is just a mild classification of autism. Usually the score is about 32 on that test to classify it as significant enough autistic traits to be consistent with the diagnosis.
And is the Asperger's more or less severe the higher the number gets?
The higher the number, the more autistic traits the person displays in their thinking.
And he received a 28 in your review based on that?
Yeah, when I totaled his scores, it was a 28 when I evaluated him, yes.
And you indicated that 80% of the people with autism spectrum score 32 or more.
Yes, that's right.
What is an empathy quotient?
The empathy quotient is another questionnaire that goes into the adult Asperger's assessment. And this is a questionnaire the subject takes himself, and it measures the amount of empathy type characteristics or empathy traits that are in a person's thinking. Usually that's low for somebody with autistic traits.
And then, of course, you administered a relative question, correct?
Yes.
And what relative did you talk to?
I spoke with Mr. Godejohn's father.
Which is the same person that Dr. Frank spoke with, correct?
That's right.
Now, what is an adaptive behavior assessment system test? Tell us what that is.
The adaptive behavior assessment test is a questionnaire that can be given to the individual himself, or more commonly given to family members or teachers or people who know the person's functioning in various settings. And it's designed to measure their general adaptive functioning skills in home life, vocational life, academic settings, wherever, but the ability to adapt and function in that setting.
And
or me faster, Daddy.
Composite, that is called the general adaptive composite, correct?
Yes, it's a total summary score for the measure.
Dr. Denny, Mr. Godejohn scored 72 on that, is that correct?
He says
I know it was relatively low.
Otherwise,
I'd
we'll
like
move
to
on.
just verify that that's correct.
Because he's not, we're not really getting anywhere here, unless you guys think he is.
I have 72. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
yes, 72.
And that's third percentile.
That's correct.
Can you describe that as low?
It is low, yes. It's in the low borderline range.
On conceptual, we got 70.
Yes.
That's the second percentile.
Correct.
And that's also described by you as low.
It is, yes.
On the social, you scored a 70 for Mr. Godejohn, correct?
Yes, he obtained an 80.
And that's in the 10th percentile. You just write that below average.
Yes, below
What are you
average, below
talking
average.
about,
We have
David?
those classifications.
Practical, you gave him a 71.
Yes,
Third percentile,
correct.
and you also just write that as well.
It is low, yes.
Now, these percentiles, the lower the number, the lower the score, correct?
Yes.
So when you say the second percentile, that would mean 98.
Why don't we just skip
correct?
to the closing? This guy's really boring.
Mr. Godejohn,
Well,
in
I
your
mean,
view, has a long
it's
history
not
of
so much
autism
like,
spectrum
okay,
disorder,
yeah,
correct?
he's a bit boring.
Yes.
It's
His
just that
score
they're
records
not
back
really
that up.
getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
His social security record back
That's
that up.
all.
Yes, I do.
Dr. Briggs
I
back
mean,
that up.
you guys tell me. I don't think that they're actually going to get anywhere with this line of questioning. It's just they're trying to they're going back and forth with, is he on this percentile or that percentile? But really, all they're trying to say is that he's less intelligent, and this guy's trying to say that he's more intelligent, and it's not making any difference to whether he's culpable.
No, our guy said he's dumber than you did.
Yeah, you're dumber than he's saying. He's less dumb than the other guy, or he has more intense Asperger's than the other guy says. And I don't think that this makes. Oh, look at that screenshot there. I don't think it's going to actually make any difference. So we do want to move forward with the closing statements today, if we can.
Oh, closing is a separate video.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, we'll just get to the end of this testimony, though.
Reading from, well, repeated this period.
The question was, even with level 1,
DSM-5, blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to flick through these words here, see if I can see anything. Tendency and appropriately do the same thing again.
To not stop yourself from doing that, he had no problem with that whatsoever at felony average.
Overall, how would you describe the defendant's executive functions with regard to abstract reasoning, problem solving, and judgment?
Regarding abstract reasoning, problem solving, and judgment, they're perfectly normal, if not above average in some.
Yeah.
That'd be perfect.
I think just covered.
Okay.
You indicated that, I think you said, if I got it right, that he's barely
It's the
on
questions that flame
Is that what I'm
now.
saying to say?
Based upon my evaluation.
We went through the how
my
retarded are they
interaction with
discussion
him
with
and
Bryce
score,
Roach.
I believe he falls within the classification of autism spectrum disorder,
Okay.
but he's at the highest.
Next one is the next video is jury instructions.
The rules apply to everyone.
Okay, so can we go instead to not that one?
For me to say.
So that's the jury instructions, and then you have prosecution closing. There we go.
Prosecution closing. Right.
May it please the court.
Yes, sir.
Although this is the state versus Nick Godejohn, we knew that. There's been another obvious presence here throughout this trial. And it started Thursday when you came in for jury selection, right? This other presence that we knew had kind of this overarching narrative, and that's Gypsy.
Huh.
That lie.
Gypsy.
Blanchard is absolutely a part of this case. And she does have this narrative that many of you may have anticipated would be really a part of the trial, and it is. And she does have a story about her childhood and about how her relationship with her mom and how her mom abused her. But if we're not careful,
And now
there
she
can be a
manipulated him.
tendency to let Gypsy's narrative overshadow what we're really here to decide. Because all along, flying under the radar, coolly, deliberately, was the defendant, Nick Godejohn. And while you're considering the evidence, Gypsy is absolutely a part of the facts. But when it comes to your legal determination of the defendant's guilt, which you were given in instruction number 6, she's not. And because she has such a presence, because she has such a story, when you look at how simple murder in the first degree is, it appears as though something's missing. It feels like there should be more. And there could be, again, that tendency to want to take some of the drama, some of the other things that have made this case interesting back with you when you're deciding the defendant's guilt. But it doesn't go If you look up at the instructions, there is nothing there that references whether or not Gypsy helped plan or whether or not Gypsy asked the defendant to kill. It's not there. Not because we forgot it. It's not missing. It's because when it comes to the defendant's guilt, it doesn't matter. There may be a tendency to consider the victim, Claudine, and how she was, and the things she did, and how she abused Gypsy. But then again, look at instruction number 6. Is there anything there that references her character? We didn't forget it. It's not missing. It's that when it comes to the defendant's guilt, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
All that matters is what the defendant did on June 10th, 2015. And absolutely, you heard as part of the facts that
I presume the defendant
Gypsy
never
did have
bothered
a role.
arguing that
She
he was
was the
like
one
defending
to
himself.
ask the
against the mother.
defendant.
No,
Sorry,
no,
No, okay.
he did not. No.
Yeah,
He-
I mean, this is good. The prosecution's doing a good job. This is important.
Yeah.
The defense is going to try to muddy the waters, and he's trying to make sure the jury doesn't get fooled.
Yeah.
He basically,
Exactly.
so during the interrogation, like he started telling their story, right? The lie. And then the woman comes back in and says, I know you're lying. And he just starts spilling his guts. Just everything.
I know you're lying. Okay, well, this is how it happened.
Yeah, I killed her. I stabbed her.
By the way, that is by far the most common police interrogation technique. They walk out of the room, they come in 3 minutes later, they look right at you in the eye, and they say,
really?
"We know you're lying."
Also, they leave the
Half the
room
suspects
to
fold
make
right
you
there.
think they just got like new information.
Right now, they went outside and had a cigarette.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
had a donut. So went down to Krispy Kremes, came back. they got the pink one with the sprinkles on it.
Yeah.
Yum. Came back.
Okay.
I
I know you did it.
Yeah.
We have a witness.
Talk
We
to
have
the
a witness that
manager.
knows it's not true. He
Let's
happens
talk
to
to one
sell
another
donuts
like
for a
this.
living.
The other person confessed.
That's exactly what they said, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They said that Gypsy told them everything, which ironically, she was telling them everything in the other room.
Well,
but she didn't know that.
But she was telling them her version, though.
Yeah.
And it was quite tainted, which is my favorite word at the moment.
Yes.
Tainted.
To kill her mom. But we have to be careful and separate out what is collaboration versus manipulation. Because there could be this sense that because Gypsy was the one that asked the defendant, somehow she manipulated the defendant into killing her mom. Let's think about that for a minute. Think about manipulation. It requires some kind of deception. I want to steal a car. So I tell you, hey, see that car over there? The owner said I could have it. It's okay. Could you just go get it for me? That's manipulation because we're deceiving. Versus, hey, that car over there, I want to steal it. Do you want to do it for me? That's not manipulation. She asked him, but he said yes. And if you think about it, in a way, Gypsy asked in the least manipulative way because she didn't lie at all. She put it all out there. She didn't try to do it through innuendo. She didn't make up things. She just said, this is what's happening to me. Will you kill my mom? There's no manipulation there because ultimately it was the defendant's decision. Nothing was held back from him. And if anything was evident from the dynamic of their relationship that you saw in the Facebook, in the text messages, in the interview, and in Gypsy's.
Bill, can you please bring up the video of that?
Oh, do I have that?
Just for fun.
Hold on. Do I
We
have
haven't
it?
shown Brugger this. It's
It'll
just
take a minute for him to find, so keep playing till he finds
Yeah,
it.
we have
testimony.
See if I can find it.
Nick Godejohn was not made to ever do anything Nick Godejohn did not want to do. And what you saw from the beginning of that request was actually the defendant not only agreeing to this murder, but really getting into this murder. Remember, he's the one that told her, talking himself up, that he's this assassin. And you saw through the text messages how he talks about how don't underestimate his need for killing, how he's getting excited. That's not manipulation. Yes, he was asked to do it, but from that, he took it from there. And he got into it. And he enjoyed it.
I'm sure I've mentioned this before,
Now,
but just reverse the
issue
genders.
that you do have to decide now that we see that no, there's nothing missing, although this is a big dramatic story, that this
Something
case
about
that
his
you are here
wife's
to decide is
boyfriend.
quite narrow. We know he killed her. That's not disputed. We know he was trying to kill her. But the real issue is deliberation, right? And whether or not the defendant had the capacity to do so. At this point, there really shouldn't even be any question that the defendant deliberated, because he did. There are psychological things we can look at, and those are important to consider. But at the end of the day, if you're wondering if somebody has the ability to do X, the best evidence is, did they do X? And in this case, that's what happened. Do we wonder, does the defendant have the ability to deliberate? We can think of the psychology, but then put that in context with, what did he do? He did it all the way along for a whole year. Not only that, he described it, and he actually described it quite vividly. In that last interview you saw, when he's describing sort of his final deliberation, the culmination of the year, and he describes literally what deliberation is using symbols, the angel and the devil. And he talks about considering both, and that at the end, it was his decision, the bitch is dead. His words. Now,
no, that was her
no
words.
amount of mild autism, level 1, Asperger's changes the fact that you heard him describe it in his own words, that he chose the bitch is dead.
No.
And so when looking at your decision, which is to decide his capacity to deliberate the moment he murders Claudine, start from that moment.
Okay, that pisses me off, but we got this shit.
What's this, Brunker?
I don't know what this is.
This is Gypsy.
Guys, explain.
This is Gypsy. So apparently people who allegedly have Asperger's or autism, they follow instructions better when it is in a video format. This is Miss Gypsy walking into her mother's room before anything happened. Walking into her mother's room.
And making the stabbing motion. Is that what that was?
Yes. Yeah,
That's exactly what that was.
Play it again. That's just her showing him how to do it.
Yeah. So this is her walking through the room.
Here, dear, this is how to go in. This is where to stand. This is where Mama is going to be. And this is what to do.
And it seems very odd why she's walking around to this side of the bed. But if you saw the photos from the crime scene, her mother kind of laid kind of across the bed. So the reason she walked around there is because that's where her mother's head would have been.
Yeah. Oh. By the way, folks, if you're ever dating a girl and you see her mother's bedroom and it looks like that, run. Run. That's the biggest red flag you've ever seen.
I'm a single male. I'm a single male and my bedroom doesn't look anything like that.
But I saw someone in the comments mention that manipulation is not really a defense, and it's not. Manipulation is not a legal defense. There are legal defenses like coercion, like duress, but they don't apply in killing cases because what duress were you under that would privilege you to take an innocent person's life, right? So that just doesn't work as a legal defense when you're charged with a crime for having killed somebody.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's just really maddening. That's all.
Now, if you were manipulated and you were mentally incompetent, well, then your defense is mental incompetence,
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And
let's think, how did we get there? And you saw a lot of different evidence leading up, but it goes back over a year. Remember this Facebook message with his friend from May 16th, that is over a year, or right at a year, before the defendant murdered Claudine. And as you see here, his response when he talks about how Gypsy changed her mind about killing her mom. Yes, she said she wants to see how our original plan goes first with me and her mom and such. I guess she wanted to only do it as a last resort. Taking that apart, in that moment, May 16, 2014, the defendant knows that killing Claudine is a plan, that it's in the works. He also knows he's the one doing it because that was clear from the very beginning. He was going to be the one to physically do it. And he is demonstrating right here reflection because he's recognizing that murdering.
Bring that question back up so Bronco can take that.
Which is that honest question?
Sorry?
That one.
Why is that bedroom of a mother a red flag? Oh, yeah.
So I guess I should provide more context. I'm talking about any woman you might be considering for a long-term commitment, a marriage, for example. A woman a woman's purpose is to bring order to a household, and that is disorder. So you don't want to marry that. And women tend to be, how are they taught how to be wives and mothers? They're taught by their own mothers. Where else are they going to learn that? So the mother's bedroom is a pigsty. You should expect your wife's room to look like that, which will be your room looking like that, which will be your house looking like that, which will be your life looking like that. And then in 7-8 years, after a couple of kids, you get divorced and you lose all your money in your house.
This definitely isn't coming from personal experience.
I convoke Sal. Sal's dying. Anyway, moving on.
Is the worst option. It's the heaviest option. It has the most risk. It's the most final. So he even recognizes that that is a last resort. But also, he recognizes that they have.
I know what her room looks like now, though, don't I?
He's reflecting on what the ultimate goal is to be with Gypsy.
They always expose themselves.
Does he mention the alternatives? He did that. So when you want to talk about capacity, he did that. You heard both in his interview and in Gypsy's, they tried it in March of 2015. That was going to be the first plan. Try to get mom to like it. Well, not surprisingly, mom seeing a 26-year-old guy at a Disney movie by himself, that didn't go over great. So plan one didn't work. But it was still an alternative he considered.
Guilty right there.
You also remember some of the Skype messages from March where the other plan was to get her pregnant. Again, considering another alternative to the last resort. Then we move forward. Once we get to May of 2015, now we're about a month before the murder. Here's what we know. We know that of all the planning Gypsy did, the defendant was given how. And it was his choice to stab. It was his choice to use a knife. We know that. We also know that he wanted tape. He wanted bondage tape. You saw that in the text messages, but more importantly, you heard Gypsy testify to that yesterday, that that was his idea. And that he wanted to do it to muffle Claudine. So again, going back to capacity to deliberate.
I guess technically
He
Minnie
clearly
Mouse
recognizes
bondage.
that if you stab someone to death, that's going to cause noise. Causing noise means you could get caught. Using tape to muffle helps prevent you getting caught. No amount of Asperger's, autism, whether you're on the high side of the IQ or the low side, doesn't make that concept any better. He thought of it and he considered it, and clearly he was doing it. Then when we get to the 19th, where we see he's considering his tool, the tool that he has chosen to do this. And again, he knows he wants to stab.
I thought he couldn't ejaculate.
And he's thinking.
No, he couldn't.
He's reflecting it because you see he's even looking at different categories. Tactical knives.
Do you ejaculate?
SEAL team knife. Jungle primitive knife. Cold steel trailmaster knife. He's looking at different knives.
This is all his internet
considering
history.
Which one of these is going to work best? He's reflecting upon that. And you actually heard, although
can you pause
there
it
was
for
a
one
big deal
second?
made of it in opening, the fact that it was Gypsy that gave the.
Folks, just a word of advice. I consult on cases all the time. And when I get the discovery file, I get everything that's ever been deleted off those electronic devices. It's never deleted, my friends. It's never deleted. It's flagged as deleted, but it's still there. I see them. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
That's celery bright.
Yeah, celebrate, yeah.
Celebrate,
yeah.
And then that's celery bright.
Defend the knife.
That sounds
It was
better.
his idea to use it, and he told her to get it. And if you recall, he actually told her first to get a machete. Now, we can only somewhat speculate what he planned to do with the machete, but it's probably safe to say it wasn't going to be any better for Claudine than what he did with that smaller knife. But that was his choice that he's doing on May 19th as he thinks about what he's going to do. Then we get to the 28th. You remember the other thing from the text messages and the testimony of Gypsy is that it was the defendant's idea to use a taser. He wanted to use a taser. And she actually testified that at one point she apologized to him for not getting it. And remember what she said, why he wanted it? To keep her from fighting. So let's go back to his ability, his capacity. He knows he wants to murder Claudine. He knows a victim that's not fighting back is easier to kill, so he wants to use a taser. He could have a genius IQ, and there's not going to be any better deliberation on that than what you see. He considered a way to make the murder easier for himself on May 28th. He also,
this is obviously all deliberation,
had the capacity to realize they may get caught. And if we get caught, we should probably have a story. And you saw both from the testimony of Gypsy, but even here in these text messages, you see they're starting on the right. Dear, please go with the story. I told my mom and stepdad. And then you see Gypsy responding, please let me know what story. And then the defendant, I'll tell you in person, dear, because I'll be able to explain it better then. That was his story,
like during the 1950s.
His deliberation on what would happen if they got caught. And you heard it in his interview. That was the first story he told. When he said, I came up here because Gypsy got kicked out of her house, so I just came on the Greyhound and brought her back. That's their story. But he came up with it because he had the capacity to think.
The judge is doing a crossword puzzle.
After the murder.
Wouldn't you?
No, I would
On
too.
June
It's
9th,
fine. Unless there's an
as he's
objection.
sitting
I mean,
at the day's
nothing
end,
for him to do.
he sends this text message. Dear, should I ask you this before he has to? Is your mom a light or a deep sleeper? Again, that didn't come from Gypsy. That's not her words. That is the defendant having the capacity to think, if I'm going to a victim who's sleeping, a light sleeper may awake, may create more of a fight versus a deep sleeper. He's thinking about it. He's considering it well beforehand. And then after he's told that she's a light sleeper, again, he's in his role that he has taken on willingly and saying that he's excited.
Oh, please.
Then you have a little bit later, he asks Gypsy, does her floor squeak? He has the capacity to know that when you are creeping up on a sleeping victim, especially a light sleeper that he just found out, something like the floor squeaking could wake her up. That's going to
I don't really
make
have
the
a
murder
substantive
more
objection to
difficult.
this closing so far, but the lawyer,
That's all
the prosecutor
him.
comes across
All
as a
the
guy
defendant.
talking to his girlfriend who's trying to break up with him and he doesn't want her to go. Like,
You heard about his outfit.
you know what I mean? It's
You
almost
see here where
leading-
Gypsy asks, what will you be wearing,
Yeah, he's like, and this, and this.
Please believe me. Please, no, you have to please don't go. Don't go. I love you. Don't go.
Yeah. And by the way, this. And by the way, that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Well, he says
His word.
manipulation, so he doesn't believe in manipulation or whatever it was that he said that was stupid. It's like clearly
it's
he's never been
legally
in a
irrelevant.
relationship with a woman.
It's not relevant.
Yeah.
But he comes across as very
His part of
soft,
the plan.
and like he doesn't completely buy his own narrative. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tone of it. The substance is fine. If I was reading a transcript, I'd be like, no, this sounds good. But the manner in which he's delivering it strikes me as kind of desperate.
Now,
yeah, he's a little bit used car salesman, kind of. He's not really there. Like his presence is not strong in the courtroom, I believe. Like he's not
bad used car
salesman.
Yeah, he's not selling it.
No.
Like, I mean, you got to commit, like Richards.
I mean, it feels like really he's got the law and facts on his side, as far as I can tell. I mean, we can be sympathetic to this poor kid who obviously did get manipulated by this girl, this woman.
Yeah.
But in terms of the facts and the law, it's pretty much an airtight case. And but he seems nervous about it. You shouldn't seem nervous. You should look like the most confident person this jury's ever seen.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. But he's not really coming off that way. I agree.
No. Yeah.
Let's keep going.
But I have a question.
His choice. He says something.
Oh, sorry, go on. Yep.
So I assume, because like this is your sales pitch essentially, right?
Yeah, right.
I assume this is something that you have to practice a little bit to get really good at, to like really sell like what it is that you're talking about, regardless of the case. Like you just have to be very comfortable with yourself and comfortable with the knowledge of what the case is in order to actually sell something the right way. Because what he's doing, like you said, just doesn't come across very well, even though everything is on his side.
So you have the facts, you have the law, right? You have to have those. And then you have the theater component of it. And yes, I would drill relentlessly until I had the most perfect performance you've ever seen. It doesn't mean I don't have the facts and law on my side, but I want the performance to be perfect. When I consult on a case, a big part of what I do is work with their witnesses and the expert witnesses and hear them. We do mock testimony in the lawyer's office, so I can hear how they're presenting, so I can hear the tone of their voice and their demeanor, because that's what the jury's going to see.
Yeah.
Right. And so we can fine tune all of that. We don't tell people to lie or make things up or anything like that, but we want them to focus on particular facts, observations, and we want them to present themselves in a particular way that looks confident. It's normal for witnesses to be nervous on the witness stand, right? It's not normal. Sure. It's not a normal experience for them. So that also helps when you run them through it dry. In fact, if you're smart, you'll have a little witness box for them to sit in while you're doing it dry. They won't be just sitting at a table. So the whole thing, when they finally get to the courtroom, it's like, oh, I've done this before. Yeah. But yeah, a big part of it is the theater. You can have the law and facts in your... Listen, innocent people get convicted all the time. I do criminal defense, right? So my clients are the people charged. Innocent people get convicted all the time. As far as I'm concerned, you need to do everything ethically within your power to prevent a wrongful conviction from happening. And this witness preparation is totally legitimate, and theater control is totally appropriate. And if you're not doing that, as far as I'm concerned, you're not really zealously advocating for your client.
Absolutely. And Benjamin Gray.
So that's why I'm expensive.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, just before, Benjamin Gray, you're absolutely right. Not a lawyer, but from public speaking, lacking a little passion. Don't bore the jury, build an emphasize the linchpin points, pause, then next point, same thing. Agree. And I am not a lawyer either, but I pitch ideas to advertising clients, and same deal. They will not buy my ideas unless I present them very convincingly. I have walked into rooms of grown, very, very rich old men who have taken one look at little old me, even as like a 22-year-old young advertising exec, and looked at me and gone, what the hell could she sell me? How can she sell my very expensive product to an audience, of international audience? And I've gone in there and with my pitch deck, and I've sold it to them in a convincing way. And by the end of it, they're eating out of my hand. But on the surface, at the beginning, they've just been like, well, I'm not going to believe her.
What the hell does this young girl know?
Yeah. Who is she, and why on earth would I believe her? So it's all about the way you present. It's all about the story that you tell. And it's about, like we were talking about the other day, Andrew, about getting to the emotion and then making sure that they act in the way that you want them to act.
Right, but the sequence is important. So I do have a ethical objection to lawyers who don't have the law and facts on their side, and are at least prosecutors.
Yes.
Defense attorneys can do whatever they want, as far as I'm concerned. Sorry, that's just the way I feel about it. But prosecutors who don't have the law and facts on their side and simply resort to emotional appeal to try to get a conviction, that I object to. That's wrong. What I think is appropriate is you argue the facts, you argue the law, and when you have those in place, that's your foundation, then you layer the human emotion, the theater on top of that foundation. I think that's absolutely appropriate, and I think that's compelling for a jury, because they do get the jury instructions. Don't forget, they're going to go in deliberations and have those jury instructions. So you do need to hit the check boxes, but then you want to you don't put the icing inside the cake, right? You put the icing on top of the cake. The cake is the law and the facts, and then you want to layer the icing on so it looks as attractive as possible. You make it you want to make the decision an easy decision for the jury, right? It's downhill. They're just rolling down to that not guilty verdict.
Yes, exactly. Dali, do you want to say something?
No, it's okay.
Yeah, okay.
That will terrify her. It's all black, my evil sidekick, the full outfit. So we have the capacity to know, one, that something scary would be a clown t-shirt with evil clowns on it. He was thinking ahead that when I'm sitting on top of her, straddling her, all black, with my black shirt and my black hoodie, what's something that's going to freak her out? How about some scary looking clowns? And he was pretty spot on. As we're getting even closer now, it's June 10th, about 1:11 a.m. He's now making sure he has the right address. He has the capacity to know he does not go to the right address, that's going to delay, and that could cause problems in the plan.
Yeah, you go to the right
He's given the
address.
address, and then just to make sure, upon reflection,
It'd be
he
bad
looks
to
it
walk
up
in
on
and
Google Maps.
stabby at
He
the
sees
wrong
how much it's going to
address.
cost for the taxi.
Well, Uber was available back then.
Another thing that was brought up by the defense in opening was that, well, it was Gypsy that handed him the gloves. Well, it was the defendant's decision to put them on. And actually, as you remember from the text messages, even Gypsy texted him there on the right, you may not need to put on the gloves because we will sink it. And she told you she meant sinking the knife. And the defendant, not Gypsy, it was the defendant's decision. No, he's still going to put the gloves on. And you remember his interview, both of his interviews, the one with Mahoney, Detective Mahoney, and the one from jail with the reporter.
I feel you want to read
He was
this?
proud of the fact that you wouldn't find fingerprints. He said that multiple times. And he said, you won't find fingerprints because I was wearing gloves. He had the capacity to know wearing gloves is going to lessen the chance of fingerprints. And then we have probably the most cryptic, which is he's there at the door. And this is the plan. She's going to come get him, and then Gypsy's going to go to the bathroom, and he's going to go do what he's going to do.
Pound 10.
And typically in a situation like that, when you picture the defendant standing there knowing what he's about to do, right, we may have to sort of use inference to determine his deliberation. But we don't, because that's the moment that the defendant talked about where he thought, angel, devil, the bitch is dead. It's at this moment.
That's what Gypsy said.
He says that even as he stands outside the bedroom, he waits another minute. So another way, I know you've heard me say deliberate, you're probably getting tired of it, so I'll pick a new word. The opposite of deliberate would be impulse, right? Impulsive.
When he walked in the house.
There is not one part of this murder, of this plan going back a year, that is impulsive. And even
Gypsy
in the final
posted it on
moment,
Facebook.
where you would think.
Gypsy posted on Facebook.
Yes, but Nick,
And-
when he
and-
walked in, he said the bitch is dead.
Was that recorded?
No, but Gypsy said that's what he said.
Well, that's just hearsay.
Well, it is, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
But,
it's a defendant, though, but yeah, it's still.
Yeah, and that's where she said that she got that's why she posted it on Facebook, is because Nick had said the bitch is dead when he walked in the house.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. And of course, it's purportedly a statement by the defendant.
Of
so you
course,
can get around the hearsay argument. But
it's
still secondhand by someone who's really, I would characterize as a party opponent.
She's a part, and she's also a co-defendant, isn't she?
No, well,
she took a plea deal,
played.
so technically not.
Really? That's not considered a co-defendant when they both murdered the same person.
No,
we wouldn't call it that in the U.S. No, she might be an accessory. She might be a co-conspirator.
Co-conspirator. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Jesus. It's touching at straws, I think.
Jeez.
We're getting into technical terms of art. So, I mean, you're quite correct in concept. It's just the term we would use to describe it.
Okay.
Under emotion, under passion, someone would finally make an impulsive decision,
really?
standing outside the bedroom door of the person you're about to go stab. Even then, the defendant can't act impulsively. Even then, he deliberates before doing it. That's what this case is. And all of the things we just looked at, all the texts, all the web history, can you tell from any of that he has high functioning autism? He's not doing anything different than someone else who's planning a murder, taking steps to incapacitate the victim, taking steps in case you're caught to have a story. His mild autism changes nothing about any of the deliberation that you just saw. And even his
autism is not a legal defense either.
How he actually stabbed. He even
insanity would be a legal defense, but that's a very high
17 stab wounds. That must be some kind of frenzy, especially considering how deep the cut to the neck is. But he even talked about that was purposeful. He did that purposely so she would bleed more. He cut the back of her neck so she would bleed more and die quickly. Even that part was deliberate. So
And that is the proper way to stab somebody. If you want
There's no way
I just don't think he knew
to
how
see
to
this
do
as
it.
anything other than cool reflection. And the fact that he does have mild autism, it doesn't change anything. And when you go back to where we started, these simple 3 elements, it doesn't change. And even the things you heard about Claudine, how she mistreated Gypsy, I
yeah, we should have a party opponent party to a meetup someplace.
Like you heard in opening where he sees the wheelchair, sees she can walk. That's no moment of
Get a
passion.
stage.
He knew a long time before that she could walk. So was Gypsy mistreated? Absolutely. Is the defendant some knight that's coming in to save her? Let's be real. You heard his interview. How many times did you hear the defendant mention, oh, I was rescuing her, I was saving her, I was freeing her? I can tell you, 0. In the text messages leading up, how many times did you see him make any reference to, I'm coming to get you, just hang in there, right? You're going to be free soon. I can do this. How many times did you see it? 0. Instead, you see, I expect you to be wearing something specific, red lipstick when I get there. And when I come get you from the bathroom after I murder your mom, you better be naked. The defendant had his very clear own reasons for doing this. So to make this seem like he came in here to save her is completely contrary to everything else you saw.
I would not expect Department of Corrections to treat him any differently. They're not exactly awash with high functioning criminals, right? They're awash with low functioning
to be held accountable for that.
For them.
Absolutely. But she deserved to be held accountable in here, with 12 people like you judging fairly, impartially. That's how she should have been held accountable. All the same rights that the defendant had.
Took a plea deal.
All the rights that he has sits there when he stabbed somebody 17 times.
No,
I think he's talking about the mother.
Oh, I see.
Okay, yes, that's right.
And he's absolutely right.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Right?
He's absolutely right.
No one has a license to kill her in her bed while she's sleeping.
Yeah.
No, absolutely right. And Gypsy herself has said that since, like, no, she didn't deserve to be stabulated. The mother, she deserved to probably be where she is. And she said that for prison. She deserved to be in prison for the rest of her life. Well, too late for that. Now, Gyps
didn't get to hold court himself in the bedroom at 2 a.m, straddling her as she's sleeping, literally stabbing her in the back.
Until they got to the stabbing part, I was like,
or hold her accountable that way. That's not how we do it.
Allegedly, that
As I
was
said in the
supposed to happen
beginning,
too.
no doubt, Gypsy was a part of this murder. She bought him the tickets for the Greyhound bus. But without Nick Godejohn,
couldn't even get him
nobody's
Spirit
getting
Airlines.
on that bus. Her
okay,
money.
that's not all.
Hey,
Let's
folks,
just
go ahead.
let's just be clear. It wasn't just the Greyhound bus. She sent him the murder weapon in the mail, for goodness sake.
No, she sent it back. She handed it to him when he got there. She mailed it back, though.
Yeah, okay. There, she walked over to the bed and said, "Here, do that." And she wiggled her vajay at him like virtually for 2 years and said, "After the deal is done, then we right."
Well, a second time.
Now. What do you mean the second time?
No, she lost her virginity in the AMC men's handicap stall.
Handicap stall.
Right. Okay. Regardless, there was more than just the Greyhound bus tickets. Well, she wasn't in a wheelchair.
Hey, at least they used real popcorn butter that time.
I would just generally caution people, if you're involved in a criminal conspiracy, at least private jet, business class. If your co-conspirators are making you get to the scene of the crime on a Greyhound bus, you're with the wrong group. That's just you shot too low.
Yeah, exactly. And Cece, I agree with you. I'm pretty sure she lost her virginity before Nick. So I don't believe a word. I don't believe a word this woman says at all. Nothing she says, nothing at all. And yes, Liz, your press pass is in the mail. Liz, paralegal Liz, is going to be at Richmond Courthouse for the hearing of the hearing that is everyone saying is not going to go Mr. Alex Murdoch's way, but we'll see. So yes, that is happening. Liz is going to be our reporter on the ground.
So is that the actual evidentiary hearing? Will they'll have witnesses and the judge will make a ruling? And
Correct.
Oh, congratulations! Yes. That'll be fun.
Yay! Yay! Yes. And David, I sent you a link. Why aren't you coming in here? Yeah. Let's keep going.
Pay through the days in hotel room. Without Nicholas Godejohn, nobody's hotel
a Greyhound bus and a Days Inn
and preparing for murder. She came to the door. Without Nicholas Godejohn, nobody's walking through that door. She handed him gloves. Without Nicholas Godejohn, nobody's wearing those gloves. And she handed him a knife. But without Nicholas Godejohn, nobody is holding that knife and stabbing Claudine to death. Just as you can't imagine this crime without Gypsy, it's not happening without Nicholas Godejohn.
His shooter.
Which is why, after you consider the evidence, there's just no other decision than he is guilty of first-degree murder and armed criminal action.
Did you miss that part?
When I was a kid, you could rent a Days Inn hotel room by the hour.
When you were
you still do Motel 6.
A young man, I should say.
Yes, yes.
Nicholas Godejohn is not guilty of first-degree murder simply because he didn't have the ability to deliberate. And it's not as simple as the prosecutor just told you. It's a very complex
Explain it to us.
And I'm going to talk about all the things I want you to consider in deciding whether he did in fact deliberate. And I believe when you hear all of what we all had to say, and you think about all of the evidence, you will come to that conclusion.
Oh, he's got the Trump tie.
Deliberate. Now, let's get one thing straight. Who wanted Claudine Blanchard dead? Who? Gypsy did. Gypsy wanted Claudine Blanchard dead. But for that simple fact, we're not here. Are we? Gypsy's focus during this entire process was getting out of that home. That's all she ever thought about. What was Nicholas's focus during that entire time? Gypsy.
JJ.
Do you remember the interview with law enforcement?
Yeah, the
when they started asking him questions about this murder? What did he talk about? Gypsy. He talked about Gypsy. This whole thing comes back to Gypsy's determination to do whatever it took. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. To do whatever it took to get out of that home. And we can understand that. We can absolutely understand that.
Why not just start screaming? The vagina compelled him.
That she would kill her mother. And let's also not forget why.
You lie. You have great memories. Great memories. You do. Yeah, don't say you have bad memories. You have fantastic memories.
She didn't kill her mother. By that I mean personally. Why didn't she kill her mother? Because she couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. You saw her. She's tiny. She's tiny. Plus,
she's not that tiny.
I mean,
I see her right there.
She just emotionally couldn't do it. But she wouldn't stop until it was done. If she was going to find somebody to do it, whatever it took.
Jesus, David.
I want you to think about the ways that she set about doing this. The most important way is she did, in fact, manipulate him. She did, in fact, manipulate him. And we can call it anything we want. That's what she did. She manipulated him into doing this. And again, why did she kill her? Because in her mind, she had no choice. She wanted to have a normal life. She wanted to be a normal person. But her mother wouldn't allow it. Let's also not forget, with regard to the 3 plans, A, B, and C, she actually tried one of them.
Plan A, B, and C.
And I can't remember which one was which, but I think it may have been Plan A. And if you remember what that was, she wanted to run away.
No, it wasn't. It was get him to like her.
And what happened? Her mother brought her back.
Like him.
And then what happened?
Get your facts straight.
Things got worse. She was chained to her bed. She was deprived food. She was beaten.
David.
That's how that worked. Remember the other plan? For her to get pregnant. Why? Because if she got pregnant,
we're very
after all, they could get married or they'd have to be together.
Why would you defame him that way?
She'd already tried running away. She tried everything. And so then she reaches a point where she feels like she's stuck and she's got to do something. She'd had enough. She did manipulate him, and she herself is fully capable of deception. It was her life. She is fully capable of deception because that's how she lived her life. She was trained that way by her own mother. She was trained to pretend to be sick, although much of that time she probably didn't realize that she wasn't sick. She was trained to pretend to be a child.
All right, I don't like how this guy keeps looking at his damn notes. He's not making a legal argument. This should be memorized. This should be like a script from a play. There's no legal terms of art. There's no technical detail here. He's just telling a story, which is fine. But you didn't bother memorizing your own story? I mean, come on.
For God's sake. It's not even, this is actually a 21-minute closing argument. It's not that hard, man. Like, come on. Just speak.
Do it 10 times if you have to in your office, whatever. I don't care. But this looks, it looks like you don't believe what you're saying because you have to keep looking back. If you were looking for pieces of evidence, like a witness's name or this specific piece of testimony, fine, we get it. That's a level of detail anyone would have to look at their notes for. But you're not doing any of that. You're just telling the jury a story.
And he's already gotten something wrong. Like he said that the three plans, the first of the three plans was, what did he call it? He said the first one was to run away.
Oh, yeah.
Her? That's not right. The first of the three plans was to get the mother to like him.
Yeah.
So plan A was get the mother to like him.
Yeah,
and
like you have like F. Lee Bailey in the O.J. Simpson trial. F. Lee Bailey memorizes his entire cross. He does not look at notes. He just laser eyes the witness, waits for them to look uncomfortable, and then just attacks them on that point.
It's not even memorized. It just it flows
natural
freely from
Okay.
He was that good.
Yeah, old line. Plan A was to have a grown man show up at a screening of Cinderella and hope mom didn't think he was a total weirdo. Well, it was a stupid plan, but that was plan A, right? Plan A was not run away together. No, that was not it, right? So he's already wrong, even when he's looking at his notes. So lose.
Yeah.
Lose.
There are two people in this case that in so many ways are very childlike. Nick Godejohn and Gypsy for very different reasons. Gypsy because of the way her mother forced her to live her life. And Nicholas because of the life he had. And if you just think about some of the facts in this case, you think about what you've heard, and think about the childlike nature of some of this stuff.
Every time this guy looks at that piece of paper, it drives me crazy.
They put it in an envelope and mailed it to his house.
He does it a lot.
With what? Her return address.
Is that porn on
Does
there?
that seem like a person that has a lot of capacity?
Again,
That hung around the street
I want a
2 days
buzzer.
after this happened for 2 days.
You need a buzzer.
That doesn't seem to make much sense.
Oh my God.
They thought they were going to get married and move on with their life as if nothing happened. I think Gypsy said, hey, I thought they'd forget about me and I could just go on living my life. They didn't realize these online conversations that went on forever about all kinds of stuff, much of it fantasy. They didn't realize that was being recorded or they figured out where they went.
Okay.
They checked into these rooms. They used what names? Their names. They took cabs. He took a cab
Do you
from his
ejaculate?
hotel
Do you
right to this house.
ejaculate?
And then after the murder, what did they do? They took a cab from this house away from it. That is a childlike decision, if you think about it.
The defense needs a juror with a lot of cleavage, so this guy will keep his
had the
eyes
capacity to deliberate. Would have been a lot smarter than that.
Yeah,
Even
one
the
of the
texts
jurors should
themselves
undo our
were
job.
rather juvenile. And you saw the text. Much of it was fantasy. All kinds of stuff. All kinds of fantasy. And these two, they got stuck in this fantasy, and it's hard for them to know where fantasy ends and reality starts.
Can't stop seeing it now.
Even the prosecutor showed you one of the texts about, I believe it was the tape. If you look real close, you notice that's a sex toy website. That's a sex toy website.
Oh, here we go.
It's my home page.
This case has to be one of the most unique cases you'll ever see in a homicide. There is a unique set of facts in this case that just doesn't seem
the only one
to
they'll
come
ever
around
see.
very often.
They're going to be jurors in a homicide.
In some ways,
Come on.
everybody involved in this case is a victim, sort of. And I use that word very cautiously because I don't want to say something outrageous.
Let me go back.
Dee Dee was certainly
Oh, you got a
certainly
binger.
victimized Gypsy in
I gotta go now.
horrible ways. Horrible ways. Gypsy manipulated Nick, a low-functioning person.
I did miss one. Hang on. Ready?
And then
And
Gypsy pressures Nick into committing a homicide against her mother. And that's the way that it's sort of a triangle, and they all sort of victimize each other in some ways.
here we go. Here we go. And go.
It's also unique in that you have this 23-year-old woman
You should hit it continuously while he's looking.
And she acted the part well. She learned to manipulate.
Oh, let me go back.
She was forced to live in a wheelchair by her mother.
Oh, no.
And she acted the part
You
well.
can't even get half a sentence out without going
So
back.
desperate that she felt like the only option for her to have a life.
The jury is not down there, man.
For the women out there, imagine if a guy was asking you to marry him and he kept looking at a piece of paper like this.
Gypsy learned to steal just like her mother. She was stealing from her mother, among other places. That's all she knew. That's what she was taught.
Supposed to be selling a compelling narrative.
Her mother used manipulation to take advantage.
I think I'm going to annoy
So
people.
certainly so did she. And then when you're taking somebody in the situation that Nick Godejohn is in, with the cognitive deficits that he has, it's not real hard to manipulate him, is it? It's not real
I hope
hard.
that's not like a J.C. Penney's children
Prosecutor
clothing.
talked about some of the things that, but for Nick, wouldn't have happened. You also know
Can't tear his eyes away.
They wouldn't have happened either.
Oh, look at those jumpers.
Anything would happen in this case, but for Gypsy. She was tired of not being able to grow up. She wanted a real life. And with Nick, she felt
Okay,
like
I
she
give
had
up on
one.
the bill.
And she felt like he was her rescuer. And she felt like he could do what she needed done. And she manipulated Nick. She planned virtually the entire
reading
thing.
anything, I think.
She obtained the gloves. She obtained the knife. She paid for everything. He didn't have any money. He couldn't have paid for anything. She paid for everything. I guess
Now,
she expected
what was
to
I
sell the
saying?
knife, but she told him when. And she made the decision to move it up.
Sir, eye contact.
She decided we need to do this quicker because you're about out of money.
See what jurors
That was her
are.
decision.
Right.
Right.
Remember what I
Her
said
decision
earlier?
to
My
kill her
favorite
mother.
part of being an
She
expert
talked him
witness is
into it.
when I get to look at
He
the
didn't talk her
jury
into
and talk to
doing
the
it.
jury
She
and
talked
teach
him into
the
doing it.
jury. That's what he should be doing.
This is your only chance.
Let's talk about
Well,
Nick
except for like
Godejohn for a
voir dire
second.
and opening, but this is your final chance. This is where you make your
We had one
argument
job.
to the jury.
Couldn't hold
You
her.
need to convince them. Be confident.
Not because he's a bad person, because he just didn't have capacity to hold the job. It wasn't a terribly difficult job, but like all jobs, it is difficult, and it's important work. It's good work, honest work. But he couldn't hold it. Didn't have a driver's license. He comes up with this story, according to the prosecutor, of what they're going to tell the police when they get caught or if they get caught, which is interesting since they didn't think they were going to get caught. I'm not sure why they really needed a story, but if you stop and think about this story, it doesn't even make any sense. The story is, if we get caught, we're going to say I ran into you out by the motel and I took you to Wisconsin. Did you notice something about that story? What does it not account for?
Oh, I ran into you.
There's no explanation as to how they're going to explain that. It doesn't account for that. This is a story they're going to tell his mother about why gypsies in Wisconsin. That's the point of this story. Nick was so completely in love with her and so obsessed with her that he would do anything.
He kind of
And
still
Gypsy knew
is.
that.
A little bit.
And Gypsy knew that. In his
It's like
mind,
he
he
moved
thought
on
exactly
with
like her,
Tyrone.
that there was no alternative. He was told she tried to run away. He was also told why she couldn't run away that day. Remember, her mom had papers. What does that mean? Well, not only can she go get her, but she can force her to come back legally, even though she's 23 years old. Nick Godejohn wanted Gypsy to be happy, and he wanted her to have the life she deserved. In his own mind, he thought of himself as her rescuer.
Aww,
Again, we're recognizing
romantic.
that that doesn't make what he did right, but you have to look at it from his perspective, with his cognitive condition. He worshipped her. He lived an isolated life. The prosecutor likes to talk to these girlfriends he had. They were all online. Those weren't girlfriends as we normally think of it. Gypsy was his girlfriend. He now had the life he wanted, just like she had the life or saw the life she wanted. His disability is clear from all this,
Hey, Iris.
including the tape, the interviews. You can see it. It's obvious. His disability is clear, and that would have affected his mind.
Yeah, this is
There's a lot of
defense closing.
discussion of text in this case, and you'll notice most of these texts are just meaningless conversation. And one of the things to keep in mind about any kind of text or email or anything like that is it only has real meaning if you see the whole context and you take little portions of it and try to spin it in the worst possible way and make it as bad as possible. There's talk about a dark side and a good side. He made the same comment with the reporter. Remember that? He talked about that. He even said she talked about running away. The fact of the matter is the texts don't really tell us a lot. I'm not saying they don't tell us anything, because they do tell us some things, but they don't tell us anything about deliberation, anything about cool reflection. All they tell us about is discussions they had. Now, all of this has to be viewed in the context of the experts, Dr. Franks and Dr. Denny. Dr. Franks gave you an honest, straightforward explanation of what he found. He found, after evaluating Nick Godejohn, that he suffered from, or he had autism spectrum disorder level 2, requiring support with accompanying impairment. And we know that Nick didn't have a lot of support at home. He pretty much lived on his own.
Really?
He lived with his mom.
Dr. Franks felt like a person in that situation might very well struggle to deliberate. That was his opinion. Dr. Denny mostly talked about Dr. Denny. He mostly talked about his CV and all and all that stuff.
We might need a
all $150 an hour. If you're wondering why he talks so much, there's your answer. He didn't really tell us much about Nick Godejohn. He mostly wanted to criticize Dr. Franks. What was his experience with persons with autism? He evaluated 4 to 5. Not a whole lot of real experience. Not a whole lot of real experience. He tried to downplay his own IQ scores for Nick, even though it was lower than Dr. Franks's. Had this chart, Bell chart, and had this extensive discussion of where the median is. Bottom line, his number was 77. Intellectual disability is 70. He also said their numbers had a little bit of play, you know. And despite the fact that that was in single digits in terms of percentile, I want to say it was less than 10, meaning more than 90% of populations that had a higher IQ. He tried to somehow explain that, put it in the middle. Remember his little chart? And he also told you that most of the numbers were close to 100. I believe that was his testimony, because he said the higher up you went, and that would be toward 100, the numbers kind of began to congregate. But he kind of explained it as if most people are all in this small range. People fit along that chart. And there's a reason that Nick Godejohn's IQ is 23 points lower than the average person, and that's significant. Even he had to admit that's borderline. He also talked about Dr. Franks' data being off, despite the number being bigger, but he never really told you how it was messed up. He figured he fixed it. That's how he did that. And he said something that's really interesting. He said, the data is what the data is. That is 77. All evidence in this case demonstrates that Nick Godejohn
I love lawyers trying to work with numbers.
Not generally their strong point.
The fact of the matter is, Nick Godejohn did not have the ability to handle reflection.
Same with designers. We're all colors and shades.
You may have copies on instruction number 6. Paragraph 3, the prosecutor's showing you that. And it says that defendant did so after deliberation, which means cool reflection upon the matter for any length of time, no matter how brief. Let's take the second part, or the last part first. For any length of time, no matter how brief. It's not a function of time. It doesn't say if it's less than 5 seconds or more than 5 seconds. It's saying the time, it doesn't matter, no matter how brief. The real important part is the cool reflection. That's the important part, the cool reflection. Far more important than the other part, because if you have that, it doesn't matter for how long, but you have to have it. That we don't have in this case. When you consider all the evidence, it doesn't really have the ability to deliberate. Does he really have the capacity to deliberate, given all the evidence in this case?
Well, he's got to read the paper.
When you consider his cognitive disorder, when you consider the pressure
he probably can't see the jury with the glasses on. He takes the glasses off because he can't see across the room.
Hi.
Dude, get bifocals.
And he still talked about that when he was...
Or just don't read your notes.
I believe the reporter. We don't have the cool reflection in this case.
Have a memory that's longer than a gerbil.
No, we obviously have deliberation.
To think long
well, we know where the gerbil
argue we don't.
Consider all the facts. And consider all the evidence and all the witnesses, including our witnesses we put on, Gypsy Blanchard and Dr. Franks. Consider
his client's IQ was higher.
What's appropriate.
I don't know, but I would wager that probably 80% of the prison population has an IQ under 80.
Dee Dee deserves compassion. She really does. Yeah. I mean, I know she did a lot of horrible stuff. And I agree with the prosecutor. She should have been prosecuted rather than murdered. Gypsy deserves a lot of compassion, obviously, given what she went through. have a little
That
bit for Nick
bitch.
as well. I'm not asking you not to spread it
That
out. I'm just
bitch
asking you to have a
needs
little
more
bit for
than
Nick
8
too.
years.
Consider his situation. It's not as simple as the prosecutor said. Consider his situation. And I'm talking about his entire situation. He was only trying to help the woman he loved. He didn't do it the right way. We all agree with that. But he was only trying to help the woman he loved.
Men, take note.
Nick is not guilty of first
Yeah,
degree
don't do
murder
this.
because he simply lacked the ability to deliberate.
Yeah.
Find Nick not guilty of first degree murder. And then
She's
look
an
at the
adult. She
alternatives,
can
the
go
other
buy her own
homicides that are
gun.
available to you, and decide which one best fits the
She can
facts.
steal her own knife and do the
I believe after all the
dabbling
evidence
herself.
that you consider, there is reasonable doubt as to his capacity to deliberate for first degree murder. And I believe the appropriate verdict in this case is one of the lesser homicides. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, he says one of the lesser homicides.
Yeah, not
I
not
think he was
acquittal.
trying to say not
Yeah.
guilty.
No, he did the purse house defense.
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? Here we go. We're going to go.
1 minute.
We're
Is that
on verdict
literally how
watch,
long
guys.
the verdict turned?
Wait,
Did the
wait,
We're
wait,
on
judge
wait.
say,
live.
"Oh no, Your Honor, we don't need deliberations."
No, she's talking about her sex life.
Shut up.
Oh,
We're on live verdict watch, people. What will it be?
Oh, I need to
Check
pull
out
that
the
up.
ticker at the bottom.
Yeah,
We're
a
in
lot of
verdict
people-
watch.
in a minute.
I know.
There was rebuttal on that too.
Oh, was there? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the one that you just started was rebuttal.
Yeah.
Oh, oops. Okay, no.
It's not
State,
very
the
long.
state always gets to speak last in
Yeah.
American criminal courts.
Deliberated. Because you've seen the evidence. Many times you have to figure that out from a criminal side case based on someone shooting someone. You don't have as much evidence. You
It's
have
called
Premature.
foreplay.
just his statement. But years of evidence of him deliberating. Let's talk about Dr. Franks for a minute. Remember, he diagnosed him with autism spectrum disorder level 2 with intellectual impairment, but said that that was the same as his Asperger's from before, and it was a mild form of autism. And when I asked him, does that diagnosis prevent someone suffering from it from having a state of mind that's the element of offense? What did he tell me? No. I asked him, well, what should you look at to see if they have
I
a
agree
state
with
of mind?
Iris. I would say when a woman asks you to crush it, that means something entirely different.
Would it include statements about what the person said they were thinking before they committed the
Iris
crime?
knows where it's at.
Yes. And he followed up. That would be the best indication.
I knew there was no coming back. There was two thoughts that came in my mind. One was a benevolent thought, and the other one was a malevolent thought. It was almost like having a devil on one shoulder and a angel on the other. Basically, what happened was I had one thought in my mind out of nowhere.
It's like an
here,
autistic
and it
Hugh
disappeared.
Jackman.
I don't know. It was almost, I guess you would call it God, is what everyone likes to call it. Him talking to you, or an
Where are
angel
the claws?
talking to you through him, maybe. Basically saying, take her and run. That was another thought. Take her and run. That's it. It was the kind of feeling that was basically trying to influence on me as if I was somehow going to get away with it if I ran away with her. As if somehow we were able to keep her mom at bay. Better than
Goddamn
she was able to do in the past
adamantine.
year. However, the other thought came in my mind was because it saw as basically because the darker part of me was also in love with the darker part of her.
I just love
And
her,
because of it,
her face right
the
now.
thought was, it's, excuse my French, but it basically said, this bitch is dead.
That chick on the right, that chick on the right's probably not going to sleep with you.
I think that's his sister.
Unfortunately, I listened to my darker side because I wanted to be with her.
He's really not bright.
He wanted to
Excuse
be
my
with her.
French. I don't want to offend
That's
you
why
with
he
my
killed Bobby
language.
Blanchard. He wanted a sex slave. Remember their whole Gypsy talked about it? You can see it in the text.
Wait,
Oh,
now
he
that's a
was
problem?
sex-
Master, daddy's girl. You heard her talk about that relationship. How you had her do the humiliating things in a script for him. He would not be the first man who did awful and stupid things to have sex with a woman. That's why he committed this crime, was to have Gypsy Blanchard for himself. And how do you know he knew what he was doing when he was in the interview with the detective? What did he do at the very first part of that interview? He told the lie, right? Remember how they were hiding in the closet, hiding the knife in the closet, getting their stories together? He told the story they came up with. Why is he worried about Gypsy? If you commit a crime with someone and they're in the other room and you've been separated, what are you worried they're doing? Right? Giving it all up. And he's got no idea.
Gypsy gave it all
Told the
up.
story just as they planned.
Yeah, she did.
And then, you'll remember again the story about what they're going to tell their mom and dad. Of course, those stories are going to be slightly different. You have to have a story for them about why Gypsy shows up at your house, right, to live with you. Hopefully you don't get caught. You never have to tell the other story. But if you do get caught, you got to have the story for the closet to tell the police. 26 minutes into the interview, and you'll recall how Dr. Frank said they had no eye contact. You want to watch State's Exhibit 149 again. They had plenty of eye contact, normal hand gestures, no odd nonverbal communication. 26 minutes in here, and that's the purpose of coming to Springfield was to kill Dee Dee, to be with Gypsy.
I would actually object to this.
I stabbed her many times.
Responsive to the
listen carefully to that part. So it talks about there's more holes.
It's just like a second closing for the prosecution. That's not what it's supposed to be.
To kill her quickly.
Judges never really.
Dee Dee yelling for Gypsy didn't stop him going.
No, the judge shouldn't be doing anything.
Stop resisting
unless the defense objects.
Yeah.
Thought about raping Dee Dee, but felt bad killing her.
Yeah, this is not really rebuttal, is it?
No. He's even deliberating about how to commit the crime as he's committing it.
This is all new stuff.
Had a special knock on the door to let Gypsy know it was him. Had warned her, don't you come in that room. Don't come near me because I might hurt you.
You're right. He doesn't have notes for this.
And then he talked about the sex with Gypsy after. You have to listen carefully for it. He says, obviously.
Practiced it last night. It didn't matter what the other guy said.
Which matches what Gypsy told you.
True.
About how he initially wanted to rape Dee Dee, but instead she bargained with him. Allowed her to rape him. Was it a rape fantasy they were playing out? It started out that way. But would she also tell you that during it, she told him to stop. And he did. Dr. Denny, who is very well educated, a smart guy, found errors with Dr. Frank's work. Dr. Frank
Iris is right. That court reporter is pissed right now. This guy is talking way too fast. Way too fast. I get this criticism all the time when I'm testifying.
Really? They get pissed at you?
They do. They stop. They just like, they act like the judge. They stop the whole, like, sir, you have to talk slower.
For example, it's match the defendant.
I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm from New York.
You remember that? So you look at the history, you got a history of mild autism, downgraded to Asperger's syndrome.
Look at the court reporter, how angry she was.
And then elevated.
Oh, wow.
That's what my court reporter's always
spectrum, and Asperger's in a way just becomes part of the spectrum. His present evaluation was either autism level 1 or level 2, but even Dr. Franks told us that was mild.
Why couldn't it be Dr. Frankenstein?
And what did he tell you? Just like Dr. Franks, right? You gotta look at all the facts. The defense self-report of what he was thinking. He told us a lot about what he was thinking. And
I shot him with lightning. He was autistic.
Communication leading up to the defense, web searches, his communications at the time with her. They want to distance themselves from those text messages, but you just can't do it. And again, all the way back to 14, he was talking about the plan. It was him, he was searching for the tape. And yeah, maybe they were mixing their odd relationship with the murder. And maybe the bondage tape would be used 2 ways, but we know he wanted to use it in the murder because he said so. Again, he wanted a machete. She couldn't get a machete, so she got him the best knife she could. He wanted a taser. And you also remember that he also read an article about someone had been tased to death. So, the text, they want to say they don't show any deliberation.
By the way, this guy is using notes, of course. He's using his PowerPoint slides as notes, but he keeps his head up, right? Not buried
and hours before he goes.
Yes, but should he be allowed to have slides?
Not only that, he was looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think he
and
needs
excited about it.
To help guide the jury, if nothing else.
They wanted to make sure that Gypsy, his submissive sex partner, was like she should be when he asked her about how she was going to present herself to him after the deed was done. And he knew how he was going to present himself to Dee Dee. You select this for a particular purpose. He didn't just want to kill her. He wanted to terrify her. That takes thought and planning. Yeah, she had gloves in the house because of how Dee Dee mistreated her, right? They had medical gloves. She didn't go out special and get them. But again, as we talked about before, she suggested he didn't get them. It wasn't so under her power that he put on gloves. It was him who said, no, I'm going to wear them anyway. When you read the instruction and you listen to Mr. Perry's argument, he's, again, putting Dee Dee and Gypsy on trial, but they're not on trial. And it's not a question of, like my dog, was it a good dog or a bad dog? It's not whether it was a good decision or a bad decision. The question is, did he deliberate? Did he truly reflect? You have over years evidence of him doing just that. And again, it's cool reflection upon a matter for any length of time, no matter how brief.
Yes, that's right. Could be an instant. But clearly here was
and so forth. She didn't go in the bathroom. She locked it. And I waited at least a minute and thought about if I really wanted to do it.
So I didn't get the Wolverine call back.
And thought about whether I really wanted to do it. And then he did it. You know that he deliberated. You know that he clearly reflected. We ask you to find him guilty of murder in the first degree and armed criminal action. Thank you.
Now,
42.
we can put the verdict watch on. Actually, we reset it. We'll reset it for a minute. Let's go. We're in verdict watch. Bill, do you have the verdict?
So the little figures in the bottom right there, that's Gypsy. Is that Gypsy's mom to her left?
That's Sal.
No, that's
Dali. And what's the Pam? What's the Pam about?
Okay.
Because
Explanation
Gypsy
time.
had her salivary glands removed, right? So she had no moisture in her mouth. And apparently,
oh my God,
she gave him a
She's
blowy
purposeless.
afterwards. So we were trying to come up with a way to put some edible lube, and we came up with Pam.
There you go. There's a better version of it.
Why not?
In fact,
And she got super chats for me.
You people are terrible. What's wrong with you?
We'll go
What
back in time.
monsters?
So there it was back there, and then like we put a few more things onto the face. So
That's such a bunch of misogynists.
Yeah, we are. We're terrible. There was a nose ring added, and then
Hey, at least you got paid for it.
I did get paid for it. Shoulder pads. Oops.
Horror.
Okay, hurrah.
Oh, eggplant on the boob.
Eggplant on the boob.
Right. I wonder what that means.
That's a Monica Lewinsky dress, and you can also see that she's had a boob lift as well compared to Gypsy over on the left, on the right. So she's got a better boob job. The pearls are Barbara Bush pearls.
I get the pearl reference.
Yeah, right. So yes, I had $50 to get Dali's face actually into the full Gypsy, but then $10 or $25 actually to get the facial hair off Dali, because that was a bit difficult. But
dude, you got to charge more, man.
I do need to charge more. I should be charging more.
No,
but,
he should charge more. What are you talking about?
Oh, right. Yeah,
he's the model.
No, well, he submitted to all of this, so you know. Okay, so verdict watch is over.
I would say
Verdict
he
watch
was
is over.
manipulated.
a little bit, but you know, he loves it. He loves it. All right, so where are we? Who is sharing the verdict?
I am.
Dali.
You are right. Could you
ready?
go full screen, please?
I did.
No,
Didn't I?
Not
No,
full
look.
screen. Oh no,
that's not full screen, and that's not it.
George, that's Pornhub, dude.
Oh wait, wrong screen.
Yes, wrong screen. So professional.
Oh Jesus.
So much professional.
No, this
So
isn't
thank
my
you so
laptop.
much time to get this
Imagine
ready.
what we might have seen. We would have so much more insight.
That's the interrogation style.
Yeah. I only gave you like an hour and a half to get this ready.
Is it
Just the wrong video.
I'm Detective Dee Dee. I'm from County Sheriff's Office. How are you today?
Wrong video.
I'm working on it.
It's the last one in the list.
I know. I'm going there.
It's pretty easy to find.
We're going to see adamandeve.com pop up.
Yeah.
Your last purchase.
Okay,
Oh my
Anal
God.
record
It's spinning. I
for-
can't wait. I can't wait to see what comes up.
All unread. I can't access the verdicts because
Yes.
it's blocked to me in Australia for some
I-
reason. So
yeah.
I need to get this idiot to pull it up. I've only given him an hour and a half to find it, but he's still.
I
can't.
had it. Like
This highly aroused idiot.
Agreeable on that?
Yes, Judge,
Let me go on the.
All right, verdict time. Shock.
We're calling
Everyone looks
State of
surprised.
Missouri versus Nicholas
Well, at least the judge is
Godejohn.
keeping his chins up.
The jury has announced that they have reached a verdict as to both counts. Mr. Perry.
Judge, in speaking with Mr. Godejohn about issue of if it is first degree murder, and none of us know what the verdict is going to be, obviously. But if it is first degree murder, in view of the fact that it's an automatic life without parole sentence on count 1, that he's going to waive jury sentencing with regard to count 2, which should be the only one which they would have any discretion. If it is a second degree murder or involuntary manslaughter on count 1, he will not be waiving that.
All right. Mr. Godejohn, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear the answers to the questions about to be asked of you today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
He's going to waive his
Thank
right.
you.
I like
Put your hand
turtles.
down. Now, previously you have requested jury sentencing in this matter. I have no idea what the verdicts are at this point. But you've heard what your attorney has said. Do you wish to waive jury sentencing on count 2?
Off camera, the
in
judge
the
is holding
event
up a little sign that
the
says,
jury
"You're
finds
F."
you guilty of first degree murder on count 1. And if they find you of a lesser on count 1, you are still asking for jury sentencing. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Have there been any threats made to you to get you to waive that right?
Jury
Have
sentencing.
there been any promises? Have you had enough time to talk about it with Mr. Perry?
So where is this trial?
Mr.
Missouri.
Perry, do you believe that your
Springfield.
client fully
Yeah.
understands
Most
his
states
right
don't do jury sentencing.
to jury sentencing
There's
and the
about
effect of
4 or 5
waiving
that
it
do.
in the event that a first degree conviction is returned on count 1?
I do, Judge.
Mr. Patterson, on behalf of the state, do you have any objection to that process?
I do not object to that process.
All right, we'll get the jury in here then. Okay.
Yeah, most states, the jury has nothing to do with sentencing. They only render a verdict.
Yeah.
And then the judge does the sentencing, usually within some guideline framework.
Unless it's DP, yeah?
Yes, then that's a completely different game. Right.
Yes.
There might have been some DP in this case.
There may have been some
Thank
DP
you.
in this
Please be
case.
seated.
Oh, there is now.
I'll address my remarks to the foreperson. Have you arrived at a unanimous verdict as to both counts in the case of the state?
Do we know how
of
long it
Missouri
took?
versus Nicholas
Deliberations?
Godejohn?
No.
Would you pass down the file folder?
It's the same day because he's wearing the same shirt.
Oh, it is.
Look at those shitty chairs they got. Holy crap. It's like Office Max chairs.
Thank you.
Here we go. What is it going to be?
Not guilty.
Suddenly the judge gets to be important. It's in red. It's in red. First page says your
Court
wife
has
just broke up with the
reviewed
mailman.
The verdicts, finds them to be in order. It will now announce the verdicts. As to count 1,
An hour.
we, the
2
jury,
hours.
find the defendant, Nicholas Godejohn, guilty of murder in the first degree, as submitted in
I can't believe it.
No. And the
No.
punishment for murder in the first degree at imprisonment for life without the possibility of probation or parole.
No rent, dude. You'll never have to pay
Done
rent
by the
again.
full
Think
person.
about it.
That's true.
Free
As to
food,
count 2,
free healthcare.
He's
we,
actually
the
kind of
jury,
happy.
It's like the socialist dream.
Nicholas Godejohn,
Yeah.
guilty of armed criminal action
Plenty of
as
sex.
submitted in instruction number 10, signed by the foreperson. Ladies and gentlemen, because only the foreperson signs the verdict forms, I must poll the jury.
Just check.
You'll be asked the
Check that
following
for real.
question.
That's
Are
a
these your
non-sexual
verdicts?
act, by the way. Polling
If
the
they
jury.
are, answer in the affirmative, yes. If they are not, simply
Especially
say
for
no.
Gypsy.
So, Ms. Case, are these your verdicts? Mr. Cleaton, are these
Yeah,
your
no.
verdicts?
Oh, he's
Is he-
doxing them.
Is-
That's
Is he
amazing.
reading the
Are
names of
these
the
your
jurors?
Yes, he is.
Mr.
Oh,
Walker,
come on.
are these your verdicts?
They actually showed the jury
No,
Oh,
sir.
yeah, they did.
during the trial
Yes, sir. I'm
When?
sorry.
twice, I think.
Is this
Mr.
up on your
Woods,
channel?
are these your verdicts?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah.
I think I made a
Yes.
comment on it in
Belondo?
the documentary.
No, he
Have I-
should,
Really?
no,
have I
no.
said your name
He should be
correctly?
calling them by
Are
number.
these your
Yeah,
verdicts?
not by name.
Sorry.
Ms. Stoker, are these your verdicts?
God.
Ms. Vaughn, are these your verdicts?
Why not just read their addresses out?
Mr.
Yeah, how about their phone
Amicus?
numbers? Their face-
Amicus.
Social security numbers, date of birth, favorite ice cream. I was like,
Miss T.
Maiden name.
Fetus,
Yeah,
are these your verdicts?
fetishes.
Mr. Coble, are
that's,
these your
that's where
verdicts?
your mind goes, Hella.
And finally, Mr. Martin,
Yes,
are
that's
these
me.
your verdicts?
I've been hanging out with Sal too long.
I'm the only degenerate.
I know.
Jury's
I
Verdict
corrupted her.
as unanimous, as polled.
I take no responsibility.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we started this matter, I told you that we would be having
Okay.
jury sentencing as to the counts in the event of a guilty verdict. The defendant has waived jury sentencing while you were deliberating. As a result, there will not
Okay,
be a
'cause
need
didn't he just call
for
out
you
what the
to
sentence was
deliberate
anyway?
further today on
Yeah.
this case.
No,
Yeah,
but
I thought that
they'll
was-
they'll do
The
multiple
admonitions that I
sentences.
gave
So
you earlier
they're multiple
about
counts, right?
speaking to anyone
Yeah.
about the case are lifted. You are
So
free
the murder
to
one
speak
is
to
life
whomever
without
you
possibility
choose.
of parole. But what if that gets
You
reversed
like
on
not to, that's
appeal?
fine too.
Yeah.
Simply say, I don't wish to speak
Good
about
point.
it.
Good point.
There
So
are
then
two
what? So
caveats, though.
the other
The
one.
next sentence would still
You should
hold.
only discuss your thoughts and views on the trial.
Which was
Leave it to your fellow jurors if they wish to discuss their views.
That's your job.
And
I
secondly,
think it's something about
you
imprisonment.
should never discuss with anyone your deliberations in terms of
I
how
haven't
the
got
vote
control of the
went.
video right now.
No, that's
But with
bullshit,
that,
Judge. The jurors can talk about
Otherwise,
anything they want to talk
on
about
everyone
once they're
in this
released.
courtroom, I want to thank you.
It was, if I recall correctly, it was something about imprisonment. I think.
Yes.
So say the next lesser included sentence was second degree murder, right? Which might be 20 years to life with possibility of parole after a third of the sentence.
Yes.
But he got convicted of first. So first is life without possibility of parole. But what if he appeals that and that gets reversed? The appellate court could reverse the first degree murder, but not the second degree murder. So you want to get him convicted and sentenced on both if you're the prosecution.
Right.
So the second one still sticks.
But how can, sorry, so this might be a very silly question, but how can you be convicted of both when there was one unaliving?
Because there's an additional element to the first degree murder, that deliberation
Yes.
element, which is not required for second degree murder.
Okay.
So there's, of course, you have to have the intent to kill, even for second degree. That can happen in an instant. But we treat murders where you actually plan it out. You buy the duct tape, you buy the rope, you buy the knife, you conspire with other
Gypsy
people.
did all that.
Right. That's an aggravated form of murder, which is what they're claimed here and what he got convicted of. But what if an appellate court were to say, well, all that evidence about all that should have been excluded. So we're reversing the first degree murder sentence. But if you've also convicted him of second degree, that's still in place.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to be going through the motion for appeal next week. We're going to be getting that document out, and we'll see whether or not they are trying to get everything reversed or just the first degree reversed. What it is that they're trying to appeal, and it is based on ineffective counsel. So we have the documents. We have the documents, people, and we are going to be pulling that apart. So you might want to join us for that, Bronca, if you're free. If you're not, that's absolutely
Send me an invite
fine.
if I can make it. I'm happy to, but I never know. So
you just never know. You never know. In fact, I have been watching some of your videos. They are incredible, even for a person in Australia who has
so kind.
we have no pew-pews here, but they're not all about pew-pews. They are about defending yourself. And if you find yourself in a situation where you need to defend yourself, and our laws are quite different here, but it's just very interesting to hear about the different rules about defending yourself. And especially if you are a US citizen, you will definitely learn some things from Mr. Bronca. So go onto the Law of Self-Defense YouTube page or your website. Go and
Make us all big. Make us all big.
make you all.
There we go.
Oh, hang on, I'll just get this person away from you.
It's like the Viagra of StreamYard.
It is. We'll put your link up. What would you like to say, Mr. Bronco?
No, I don't have much to say. Great being here. Thanks for the invite. When I can make them, I always will. And when I can't, that's unfortunate, but I get busy. But the invitations are always appreciated. If I don't show up, it's not because I'm personally offended. I just got busy. So
we love having you here. We love having you here. Thank you so much for turning up. Dali, thank you as always. You're a wonderful, wonderful co-host. Yep. Do you have your stream up for the weekend?
I don't. I'll set up tomorrow morning, but Jensen at 2 p.m. Eastern.
2 p.m. Eastern. That's early. I can't
On
get
Saturday.
Up that early.
Saturday.
Well,
I can't get up at
Saturday.
2 p.m. That's like 3 a.m. for me.
No.
4 a.m. for me.
Well, come when you can.
You live in the wrong place.
You do. You people all do. You live on the upside of the earth. I live on the nice shady downside.
So are you in Australia? Is that where you are?
Me?
Right?
Yeah.
Have we talked about this? Melbourne? Is that right? Like
I'm in no. I'm in a much better place than Melbourne. I'm in Queensland. So I'm in the north part. Yeah.
Australia is still on my bucket list for a motorcycle trip. I haven't gotten there yet. Australia and New Zealand.
Unfortunately, you can't ride to here. You'll drown.
You haven't seen me ride.
Rides on water.
And no offense to Trixie, Melbourne doesn't suck, but the states amongst us, we all like to play who's best amongst our states. I'm sure you guys do too. Anyway, and Bill Hammer has a new video up, don't you, Bill?
Do I?
Yeah.
Oh, I took the Anissa Weir's trial from 2014, I think, the Slender Man.
The Slender Man one.
Yeah. That's all up.
Excellent. All right. I've already put my links up in chat. On the weekend, we have Hearsay for Days at 3 p.m. on Sunday. And we have the Becky Mails, which is actually going to be also a bit of a reaction stream to all the crazy stuff that happened at the pre-conference to the evidentiary hearing. Oh, things didn't go that well for Mr. Murdoch and his team, but it was an exciting time. And that so much stuff has happened since. There's even been a motion to recuse Judge Toll, but that's not going to happen. Anyway, no, silly. We are going to raid Miss Danny Ann. Let's go, people. Let's say excited raid, EU Dali raid. Let's go, everybody. Have a great day. We're not going to be doing this tomorrow. We'll do it again on Monday, but I'll see you guys on the weekend. Cool. Yeah.
Au revoir.
Let's get going. Ooh.
Are you redirecting to Danny? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, redirecting to Danny.
Right.
Yeah. Let's say hi, everybody.
How to do that too.
Bye.
Sorry.
Let me on your channel and I'll show you.